to see us. This is Malorcas45, fan of the Fridge FM, challenging everyone to open their mind's eye. Listen to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop to gain precision for your third eye vision.
Broadcasting from an undisclosed location in Southern California, this is the Rogie Report News on the Fringe FM. I'm Jess Rogie. Volcanic activity did not play a direct role in the mass extinction event that killed the dinosaurs. Most scientists acknowledge that the mass extinction event occurred after an asteroid slammed into Earth. Researchers have focused on the role of volcanoes due to indications that volcanic activity happened around the same time. Volcanoes can drive mass extinctions because they release a lot of gases like SO2 and CO2, which can alter the climate, according to Hull, a lead author of the new study. The last decade was the hottest on record. The decade that just ended was by far the hottest ever measured on Earth, capped off by the second warmest year on record. Seth Borstein of the Associated Press explains.
2 U.S. science agencies said that 2019 was the second hottest year on record, and the decade that just ended was the hottest decade on record by far. There's 140 years of record keeping, and both NOAA, the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, and NASA both look at temperature records. They do it slightly differently. They both came to the same conclusion: second hottest year on record, hottest decade.
5 global teams of scientists agreed based on the temperature readings taken from the Earth's surface, while various satellite-based measurements said it was anywhere from the hottest year to the third hottest year on record. An intern at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland, was tasked with going through data on star brightness from the facility's ongoing Transiting Exoplanet Survey Satellite Mission, or TESS. The high school senior was looking at a foreign system located 1,300 light years from Earth. He said he then observed what appeared to be a slight darkness in one of the system's suns, and it turned out that darkness was a planet 6.9 times larger than Earth that orbited 2 stars. It turned out the darkness was a planet 6.9 times larger than Earth. 3 generations of ancient Amazon women warriors found in a Russian tomb. For the first time, researchers have uncovered the remains of 4 Amazons with different ages in the same tomb, according to a release by the Russian RAS Institute of Archaeology. Within the tomb located in Russia, they found skeletons of 4 women. The ages of the women ranged from 12 to 50. The women are believed to be Scythians, a nomadic tribe of warriors who lived in Siberia between 200 and 900 BC. The remains align with previous discoveries showing that Amazons lived among other nomadic tribes in Eastern Europe. Items found with the remains helped researchers to estimate their burial occurred during the 4th century BC. This is the Rogie Report News on the Fringe FM. Thank you so much for listening.
Message is being broadcast by the Department of Defense of the Republic. At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere.
Discovery Houston, 20 seconds to LOS T-drift.
The first message that comes to you is you are a divine being. You matter. You count. You come from realms of unimaginable power and light, and you will return to those realms.
The vast stretches of the unknown and the unanswered and the unfinished still far outstrip our collective comprehension.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root.
Broadcasting from a shack on a hill in the mossy creek bottoms of Cane Creek, Arkansas. This is Lighting the Void, and I'm your host, Joe Rube. Tonight, January the 16th, it is Thursday, on into the 17th, and I think this is going to be a special show. Solaris BluerRaven's here with us. Never have before has she been on this show, and a lot of people are looking forward to this one because Solaris brings it. That's all there is to it. So she's a speaker, timeline astrologer, author, master teacher, healer, remote viewer. Everybody knows Solaris, right? So why has she not been on this show? Well, now she is, and we're going to have an excellent discussion with her. That's coming up shortly. I want to give a special thanks to Ronnie McMullen at GetTheTea.com, also at AncientLifeOil.com. Get your tea and get your oil and tell them that the Fringe FM sent you. And then also give us some feedback, because we like feedback. Both Ronnie and I like feedback on how it's helping your life. And we kind of got to be discreet about it, but just send us an email, either one of us. Also, head over to Metaphorical Archaeology on Facebook. I know I've been giving out the number quite a bit, but you can just search Metaphorical Archaeology on Facebook. If you've had a paranormal encounter that you need to brush off, in other words, if it's caused you trauma or caused you some type of post-traumatic stress, Barbara at Metaphorical Archaeology will give you a free pro bono session. Just mention the Fringe FM, you heard it here, and that you need some help, and she'll keep it discreet, and she's very friendly, very healing, and very helpful, and we like Barbara Charlton a lot. Metaphorical Archaeology. You can also give them a call at 214-995-3754. Also, head over to UFOseekers.com, backed and supported by the Fringe FM, if you want to keep a journalistic approach to what's going on in the UFO field, and you take my word for this, right? If you really trust me, this is where you need to go, at UFO Seekers. Now, listen, sometimes Tim and Tracy will tell you things maybe that you don't agree with, but I can assure you they're not taking a hidden agenda approach to this, man. They're really out looking for the truth, and you can check out their latest stuff on YouTube at youtube.com/UFO Seekers. And if you've had a sighting you'd like to report, give them a call at 661-UFO-7889. Now, I know some weird stuff has been happening on the station, and I hope you guys can just be patient with it. Like, because we got this new equipment here, and I mean, even last night, I was hooking up this Telos encoder, and I didn't realize, I think it was like 3 a.m. or something. I didn't realize as soon as you plug this thing in, it doesn't have a power button. So as soon as you plug this thing in, it's going. And I already had the login information to the stream and everything. And so pretty much whatever I was doing in the studio was being broadcasted. And I realized it about, 30 to 45 minutes later, and was like, oh, okay, well, this thing just goes. But the sound on my end was immaculate. The problem is, as we're transitioning into the new things of the station, like we're going to be building team members and doing stuff with the website. We're going to be doing all kinds of stuff. All right. And it's going to cause some weird things, possibly some annoying things, especially on the station. But I promise you, I'm trying to keep that limited as much as possible until we get this new thing going, because once it's rolling, you're going to love it. It may take us a little while to get there, though. Just
Be patient. That's what I'm asking you for. And I want to thank all of you for coming out last night. Man, that was weird, right? So, what we did last night was we did some shadow work, right? And we went through Carl Jung's Red Book, and I think I got all the way to hell or whatever, where we passed his descent into hell. And it was kind of confusing at first because there was a whole bunch of back history and stuff. So what I'm going to do on the archive and what I'm working on is I'm just going to cut it to where we started the journey that Carl Jung started on. And Night Stalker and the Reverend Dan Lopez was there with me last night. And we're still going to finish this. We're not going to stop doing this. All right. We're not going to stop the shadow work stuff, and we're not going to stop the book sessions because you guys did get involved, and that's really cool. So as long as you call in and stay involved with those things, we'll keep doing them. All right. So, and then if you've got some books that you want to go through, like, we're not going to do it every night, but if you have some book recommendations that you want to go through and discuss, please send us those recommendations. Okay. All right. So let's bring on our guests. Miss Solaris BluerRaven is a published author, public speaker, timeline astrologer, master teacher, healer, remote viewer, clairvoyant, and an assessment specialist in psychotronic warfare, synthetic telepathy, and covert technology. She is an internationally renowned psychic and cosmic advisor and has been a test pilot for covert technology and has a professional background in surveillance. In addition to her current research, she investigates global anomalies, and her expertise in artificial intelligence interface is well respected in the scientific and mystical community. She's also a professional writer with several books on covert technology, artificial intelligence, and I'm getting all kinds of text messages here. She's also a professional writer with several books on covert technology, artificial intelligence, and psychotronic warfare. And you can purchase her books on Amazon or Author House Books. And she hosts her own radio show called Raven Star's Witching Hour each Saturday at midnight on Revolution Radio Studio A. She also hosts Hyperspace on KCOR Digital Network, and that's each Friday at midnight Eastern. And you can check out the website at solarisbluerraven.webs.com or nightshadowanomalydetectives.com. Pretty cool stuff. Solaris, thank you for coming on Lighting the Void. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, well, I don't know where to start with you, honestly, because you've got so much background in this. You've been in this game for a while. Everybody I know that I talk to knows who Solaris BluerRaven is, and we've had Nish on, and we had Montana Jordan on, and both of them really love you. And you've got a new book out right now, right? Alien Intelligence, is that correct?
I do. Yeah, it's getting ready to go live in about 4 days. Yep, Alien Intelligence. It'll be available on Amazon.com and Kindle. And I'm very, very pleased with this book. I think the listeners will enjoy it.
Well, so tell me a little bit about what I'm mostly interested in is this technology, covert technology background where you've test piloted this stuff. I mean, can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's a long story that goes back to 2004 when I was pulled into a covert warfare program by a high-profile band, and I'm sure by this time everybody knows who I'm talking about, and in affiliation with their program director for security and surveillance work. It's a long story, but in any case, I was triangulated in my residence in Colorado in 2004 with a satellite-driven technology which interfaced me with artificial intelligence live feed real time, which included synthetic telepathy and a live handler. And with that came a lot of different types of programs with psychotronics, remote viewing, commands, programs with serials, numbers, and codes, and an entrainment program that literally pretty much destroyed my life as I knew it and resurrected me into this warfare program where I was completely manipulated, controlled, programmed, and had to navigate through and get out of to some degree. And if you read my book, Either Remote Black Operations and Areas Beyond 52, I cover this in more detail, but it was a triangulation in my residence and illegal triangulation, I should say. So something that shouldn't have happened. So that's how I got pulled into it.
Wow. Okay. So what are some of the main things right now as we are talking that are going on covertly that's being used against us that you're aware of, that you know of?
Oh gosh, it's unlimited when it comes down to black sciences and different types of technologies. First of all, frequency, everything runs on frequency. So you're dealing with microwaves, radio waves, and ultra low frequency to start. We've got the new 5G rolling out, which is nothing, in my opinion, compared to the black satellite programs that they have. But anything out there right now, there's interference that runs with transmissions and signals that can literally hijack the brainwave of a target of interest. So if someone takes interest in someone who, say, has special gifts, maybe very, very psychic or a very powerful medium or even very intellectual, then they can be looked at as a candidate for possible entrainment for the technology itself. So this is something that's here and now. This isn't woo-woo technology. DARPA's worked on these projects with the neural interface and DoD, and right now they're actually coming out and talking about it more and more about upgrading their soldiers and such. I mean, you'll see that this has been going on in the black sciences and what I call the black space program. However, nowadays it's coming into the real-time stuff that's regular Joes and regular citizens will be accessing.
Seriously, wow. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
so this is this is a lot of heavy stuff to me because I feel like after talking to everybody about 5G, what the chemtrails, this microwave supposedly that they're supposed to be putting us in, it seems, Solaris, so unreal to me. Honestly, it seems like this is just, it can't be real, right? But do you think that is like a problem with us where we convince ourselves that there's no way that they're doing this kind of stuff to us, right? That's
Right.
like a
Oh, yeah.
psychological trick we do on ourselves, I think.
It's social engineering, and it's okay to be rational and logical. I wouldn't have believed in this stuff had I not been pulled into it. I had no interest in covert warfare. I didn't even know what it was until I was pulled into the program. So I get it. However, it is a technology that's out there, and people are getting interfaced with these technologies. And for what I've seen, because this dovetails into transhumanism, that the damage that can be caused through the misuse of these technologies is off the charts insofar as interrogating a target of interest and harassment, gaslighting, gang stalking. You've heard of targeted individuals. That's not a myth. That's a reality. People get heterodyned with signals, and they literally look like they're going schizophrenic or bipolar, when in fact they're being targeted by an array system or insofar as the signals go. So this is a problem. It's an epidemic, and hopefully it's getting more and more addressed on the timeline here.
And who are some of are they attacking people? Like I would think they're attacking like Chinese government officials, stuff like that, things like that. But are they really coming after people in our field, people that are, because you hear this a lot, like podcasters, radio hosts, bloggers, journalists, are they really coming after people like us?
Well, I can tell you that there are a lot of people out there who are contactees who claim they've been in my labs, military abductions, and that dovetails into covert warfare. So that's one thing. You look at targeted individuals. Yes, that's happening. Not all of these people are in the radio industry or media or anything like that, but they're just people who have been selected as candidates for some technologies. Even for myself, I was a candidate for the technology. I wasn't expecting to be extracted into a program like that. So I would say that it's not everybody and their mother. However, if it gets out of control and it's not regulated as a technology on a global scale, that this could be a problem for people who speak their mind, speak the truth. If there's a need to censor people, then they can use an interconnected program onto a target of interest and re-entrain them. They call it a re-education program. So literally, they'll creating a synthetic telepathy stream of communication to interfere with the thought form of the target to a point where they're complying with the information. So you can see where this can go bad very quickly.
Yeah, it does. Man, okay. So you just said interfere with a thought form or a target. So I like to think that day in and day out, Solaris, that the thoughts that come to me are my own thoughts. But that's not necessarily true, is it?
Well, that's a possibility. And what I would say is go to your higher self, oversoul, and superconscious. Look for the raw, pure light, pure consciousness of who you really are. If you're getting nefarious chatter or something that seems like it's very negative, that's probably more than likely something that's not connected to you at the personality level. And that's something that people need to look at insofar as if they're being interfered with. But I can also tell you that the synthetic telepathy is very unique. And it has a certain signature where it's very machine-like, so you'd be able to recognize it. It's not something that's regular telepathy. It's very artificial intelligence oriented.
Okay. And so, how do we protect ourselves from this stuff? Can we just meditate, or how do we do this?
That's a great question. I wasn't very protected. I mean, I was protected on my multidimensional scale, but when I was pulled into these projects, there was no protection from the technology because they're triangulating you and they're using a signal to interface into your brainwave activity. So literally, you're merging into the technology itself. The only thing I can suggest is using certain things you can use, like shungite, for example, is pretty good insofar as neutralizing incoming signals to some degree, whether you're on a computer or cell phone. There's other things like orgonite and radionics and rife medicine and things like that, where you can use transmissions to kind of bounce out any incoming signals that could be a problem. But when you get pulled into these technologies, if you're really getting interconnected, what they call interconnected brain to machine, it is very, very hard to disengage the signal.
Yeah, see, that's the one thing that I'm kind of worried about a little bit, because as I don't want people to live in fear, obviously, but I also don't want people to bury their heads in the sand and trying to, I guess, figure out what's real and what's not and all this. Right. It gets difficult for all of us, and you tend to like throw a lot at people. And then when I say a lot, I mean, this is important stuff. So, I mean, do you find yourself frustrated? Like, do you see that, as much as you know about this, does it seem frustrating to you? Like we're burying our heads in the sand here. We're not really seeing what's going on, I
always feel like the technology and the information that I've given to the mass collective is for those who listen and those who understand at a higher level. It's tools for the toolbox, bottom line. But I think people know the foreboding technologies that are out there. It's, you follow Elon Musk and some other people who are out there using, very interested in synthetic telepathy, for example. So we understand that this is a capability that they can literally get into the heads of people if they so choose. So I would say, honestly, it's not about paranoia, and I don't really get frustrated. It is what it is. I put the truth out, and those who are gravitating to it, they'll benefit. And those who don't, well, I hope they never get tagged with the communication system, because it will drive them crazy, more than likely.
What kinds of symptoms are we talking about here?
Nonstop voices in the head, but it's not madness. It's not schizophrenia, bipolar. It's literally a synthetic signal, synthetic telepathy interface where it's literally interconnected with a chatter communication. Sometimes you'll have a live handler. Sometimes it will be AI, artificial intelligence, commands and programming. And it also, there's a mapping of the eyes, and there's a almost like a remote brain hacking of the manipulation of the hands and the body. So a lot of that goes on. It's almost like an electronic possession. People will see it coming because of the interface of the narrative. They'll start hearing it. And what I would warn people of is, if you start hearing a communication interconnected into you on that level, you don't engage with it, because the more you engage with it, the more you entangle with the program. You have to remove yourself from the synthetic telepathy if you can. That's my advice, unless you want to be engaged with the technology.
Yeah, I don't want to be engaged with it. Yeah, so thank you for that.
No. You're welcome.
On your new book, Alien Intelligence, is this? Can you give us kind of like a brief introduction as to what this is about? I mean, is it about? Well, let me ask you this before we get into that. A lot of us think that we have these watchers, like aliens, and some people call them angels, watchers, etc., and that there's this war going on in space or whatnot all the time. And it's confusing, because when I look at UFOs, okay, I've only had a few experiences, but I've also seen orbs, I guess you could say like amber-looking orbs that seem to come in and out of dimensions. They seem to appear, disappear, they move really fast, and I know there's something going on around us, but is it really like a intergalactic battle, or so to speak, like some people talk about?
That's a good question. I would say some of it is, I don't feel like it's a battle per se. It's a battle insofar as national security and running interference by national security to stop us from accessing what I call our multidimensional selves, and also an off-world intelligence that we could interface with normally to enlighten with insofar as our communication goes. I think that there's a threat there insofar as what we can do as star people versus what they want us to do in these covert departments. And I think that's where the battling comes in, insofar as people getting extracted into covert projects. And then, the stories you hear about wars going on. Well, mankind has set the stage for that, because he's been running interference against what I call the star people, those who are enlightened or connected to the multidimensional design work. And that's a big multiverse out there, and they don't have a right to run interference.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't feel like we have freedom. I was talking about that last night with the planetary alignments, especially like Saturn, Pluto, Capricorn, all this different energy that's happening. And what I was trying to tell Dan, my co-host last night, was like, I feel like we do have a choice in our lives, but also this energy, just by talking to a lot of friends and people that are in relationships and friendships and stuff, it just shatters things, and we can't do anything about it. It feels like sometimes, like right now, it feels like a lot of people are just kicking and screaming, going through some deep stuff, and I don't know. It's not like they have a choice. It's more like you're going to deal with this type energy. Or am I wrong about that?
Well, I think a lot of what they're dealing with is a social engineering and all their programs that are defective that they've absorbed through the linear, the linear world, we call the linear, versus the multidimensional. Once you start accessing your multidimensional selves, new programs come in that are more enlightening and more evolved. So what I'm looking at is people that are kind of decompressing, but also due to the rest of what's happening with politics and religion and this and that, I think there's kind of an implosion going on where they're just losing it and fragmenting. But at the same time, if they hold on to what I call the higher self, oversoul, superconscious, and keep navigating to higher multidimensional fields and stay positive, then they can get through these things. And that's really what it boils down to.
Okay. So if I'm understanding what you're saying is while this stuff is going on, kind of trust in your higher self, right? Trust that it's leading you somewhere. Okay.
Yeah, because you have a soul star. The thing is, we are already ascended in consciousness. We are here on a linear timeline, existing and experiencing some strange things, but really we are complete beings, and we are fully enlightened on multidimensional levels of who we really are. And that's the way I perceive it, and that's the way I see it, and that's what I would suggest people hold on to versus the other stuff that's happening where they feel kind of lost or disturbed or angry. And I totally get those things because it's a battlefield of consciousness here. There's a war on evolution, in my opinion, and this is why some of these covert technologies seem to be running interference and pulling people's energy into a dark, I don't want to say the void, but literally in an alternate reality versus a more enlightened reality. So this is something we have to deal with.
Sure. Yeah. I totally agree with you on that. It's the steps to take to deal with it. I think that a lot of us are trying to figure out, like, for example, Barney put in the Fringe FM the chat room. He said a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to someone about how I'd like to get a grandfather clock, and my cell phone was in another room. And I never looked them up online, ever. But the next day, I was hit by several ads on Facebook and YouTube about grandfather clocks. This type of thing keeps happening to me. And I've literally thought about stuff without talking to people about it, and it pops up on my damn computer. I'm not playing. It's like, what is going on here? So it's either... it's like predictive analysis, I think, is going on with artificial intelligence or something. Or are they really tapping into our head, so to speak?
Well, I know they can tap in insofar as the type of technology I've been interfaced with, but that's more of a warfare program. But I will say that there's all kinds of sci-spy technologies and spy technologies, and also the type of virtual field we're in. We are sort of calibrated to the machine world already. So your thoughts obviously manifest reality, and it seems to me like they're becoming more digitized. So if you're thinking about something, then somehow, some way, it's being picked up through the ethers to some degree and being manifested. So I think anything's possible, quite honestly. And this is why I say hold your vision high insofar as what you want to create here on the timeline, and just keep it pure with pure intent, and you'll be able to manifest quite a bit.
So manifestation is something that we can do. It's something that I know for a fact we can do because I've done it just through visualizations and stuff. And when you talk about visualization, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I've learned this kind of through occult teachings and stuff, that when you visualize something, like, you really use your imagination, touch, smell, see, feel, hear, all of it kind of type thing. Is that what you do when you're talking about manifesting or visualization? Right.
That's kind of a 101, but yes, you set the parameters to what you want to create. And when you become more of an adept, you just set the intent. You just say it or do it in a sense that there's not really thought to it. You already know it's already out there. The blueprint's already there. You're just capturing the blueprint and manifesting it on the timeline. And that's really how the magic of alchemy works through consciousness.
Wow. Fascinating stuff here. So we do truly then have some type of I don't want to say unlimited, but a much higher potential than what we're being portrayed here as far as the real time goes, right? Like what they're showing us.
Yep, absolutely.
So when you go to public speaking events and you talk to people, what's like maybe the biggest question that people ask you? One or two questions that people always ask you?
I think the biggest thing is the protection from artificial intelligence. I think a lot of people are very concerned about first of all, they don't want to get pulled into a program like where I've been. And also they want to see what they can do to protect themselves and shield themselves for that type of a thing. So that's one of the bigger questions I get on the timeline when it comes down to doing presentations and such.
Does that make a statement to you that we're kind of still in this place of fear and unknowing?
Well, I think it makes them feel vulnerable. Nobody wants to be extracted out of their house with a technological warfare program and have their life ripped away and then be re-educated with a synthetic telepathy programming. Nobody wants that kind of life. And if you watch my documentary, you'll see very clearly that you would never want that kind of experience. So I can see why it's really not about fear. It's just about, hey, what can we do to prevent this or at least deter? And also education, keeping people informed about what's out there without any paranoia. Just saying, hey, this is a technology. Not saying this is going to happen to you, but hey, be shielded, be protected, and be aware.
Fantastic. Thank you for answering that. Look, we're going to take our first break here. If you guys got any questions, you can definitely call in. The phone lines will stay open the whole time. It's 1-800-588-0335. If you got a question in the Fringe FM chat, make sure you tag me at Joe Roop so I can see it as the chat room moves. We'll be right back with Solaris BlueRaven. Stay with us.
This is Corbin, son of the one and only Joe Root, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
I think by now we can get the information.
I love magic, and on Lighting the Void, each and every week, you will get to hear shows about magic, mysticism, and many other subjects that stretch your mind and imagination. So when I got my mind on the magic and the magic on my mind, I listened to Lighting the Void on the Fringe FM. It's magic.
May the gods look with favor upon you.
You're wondering what we're going to do to you, aren't you?
Have you suffered in silence or experienced stress from a paranormal experience? Even if it happened 20 years ago, when thinking or talking about it today still makes you feel sick to your stomach or makes your heart beat faster, or you suddenly can't breathe. Maybe you even feel those old familiar signs of a panic attack trying to reach the surface. You could have unprocessed emotional responses. Those reactions of terror and trauma are no different than living through a horrible assault, childhood abuse, or a terrible car accident. It can be nearly impossible to find help. The very instance of seeing a ghost or encountering a cryptid could be clinically described as seeing or hearing things that aren't there. You could be considered psychotic, or at best, you're just not taken seriously. Out of a growing mountain of research, the National Institute for Integrative Healthcare showed that 8 out of 10 veterans who completed just 6 one-hour EFT sessions no longer tested positive for PTSD. If you've had paranormal trauma, you can contact Metaphorical Archaeology by calling 214-995-3754. Again, that's 214-995-3754 for a discreet consultation.
You can tug all day long on a carpet that's been glued to the floor. Then you hurt. There are many strong glues out there. Let's see, there's liquid nails and Gorilla Glue. You ever try to remove 3M 5200? That adhesive is strong. Then there's bathroom caulk, silicone rubber, adhesive tape, super glue, flex tape, and stickers. Graffiti. Scientists have come up with glues that stay stuck and can't be removed. Until now. Until Handyman Formula by DeBond. That's right. 95% of adhesives become unstuck when you spray Handyman Formula directly on them. Just spray, wait a few minutes, and remove. It's amazing. Most adhesives become unstuck when you use Handyman Formula. Visit DeBondCorporation.com or MCMaster.com. Call 561-575-4200. This stuff really works. Handyman Formula by DeBond, a great Christmas gift.
Okay, here we go. AncientLifeOil.com. AncientLifeOil.com. Now this is for CBD. AncientLifeOil.com. Again, for CBD. Where do I get CBD? AncientLifeOil.com. It's pretty good stuff. Organic, non-GMO. We are the Ferrari of CBDs. AncientLifeOil.com. You know, they say when you mention a person's name 3 times when you first meet, that you're going to remember. So I'd say to you, nice to meet you, AncientLifeOil.com. It's AncientLifeOil.com, right? Nice to know that you help people. AncientLifeOil.com. Think about this. Occasional stress, occasional anxiety, occasional inflammation, occasional stiffness, and intruders that get you down. AncientLifeOil.com. Okay, so I'm going to give you a fact for the day. So Ancient Life Oil does not help you with business deals. Hold on a second. If you feel better, it could help you make a better decision. Okay, I'm wrong. Just remember to go to AncientLifeOil.com.
All right, everyone. This is Justin from the UK. Excuse the chitty. If you're into the Fringe and you want to hear the brass tacks, me old China plate, Joe Roop and his guests on Lighting the Void will open your mince pies. You need to shut your north and south and use your 10-speed gears and listen to them bubble. You could hear a Barry Crocker, no Brussels, but he ain't no holy friar. Anyway, you be the Barnaby Rudge and take a butcher's.
You're listening to Lighting the Void. The call-in number is 1-800-588-0335. If you would like to text, you can text in at 501-777-5631.
All right, Solaris BluerRaven is our guest tonight, and make sure that, like I said, if you have any questions in the chat, holler at my name. Also, you can call in and ask any questions if you want to. Tomorrow night, we're going to be doing open lines again, and we might go back through the book depending on what you guys want to do, so you're going to have to give me feedback on that, and we'll keep going there. Solaris, I wanted to ask you a question about past lives, like timelines, alternate timelines, things of that nature, because I've had some experiences here lately where it's really shaken me up, and I think it's one of those things to where when I hear people talk about past lives and alternate timelines and things like that, where it's like, yeah, that's a cool concept and a cool idea, but I've never had that experience, but I recently have, and it feels like things were kind of meant to happen, but it also feels like something is disturbing it at the same time. And then, afterwards, like I said, I talked about the planetary alignments, and then I talked to other people, and this same thing is happening to other people. So I want to be real clear about this, if I can, about like the past life and alternative lifetimes and timelines and what's going on here with all this interruptions crap going on,
Right. Okay. And one thing you want to point out also, or I'd like to point out, is that the astrology itself, you're dealing with timelines, but we're dealing with space-time configurations, and we have to understand that the certain astrology is not relative in other space-time configurations. Okay, so sometimes when you're dealing with astrology here, it's not necessarily really affecting you in the multidimensional realms, if that makes sense to you. So some things that we experience here on the timeline, first of all, your lives, whether you have incarnations on this planet in the illusion of, or on another planet or destination, you absorb those all at the cellular level. So they're always with you in consciousness and at the cellular level, at the atomic level. If you're getting any bleed through, what I call parallel bleed through realities, then sometimes you'll feel almost a deja vu. Sometimes you'll feel maybe some kind of an inertia or something that's pulling your field in another direction. Or you may feel like you're in a location that you're not supposed to be, or maybe that you don't belong in a certain area. All these feelings usually connect into certain timelines and certain experiences, whether you've had them on or off planet. And that's where we get into the reincarnation, because really you're not reincarnating from the past or the present or the future. You're right there in the moment of now. All those are simultaneous. So that's something that we look at also when looking at the timeline astrology. And it's not unheard of that people have had strange situations connecting in on this timeline specifically. I know that I've talked to several friends. Now, this doesn't really sound like your stuff, but they've seen, actually, they'll go and they'll see a picture, say they'll look at the mountains, and all of a sudden, 2 seconds later, the picture changes, and they see something entirely different. It's still the mountains, but it's like another timeline. And that has been happening more and more. And I don't know if the listeners out there can resonate with that, but I do know quite a few people have contacted me about this happening. And this is just an example of parallel bleed through and multiple realities kind of shimmering through.
Yeah, because, so like when I went to Portland, I hung out with Clyde Lewis, and we're going through the Shanghai tunnels. I hung out with him on New Year's Eve, but there were instances like pictures that I saw, like they call it the city of bridges, but there's this one bridge I kept seeing that's green lit. It's tall. And I'm like, I know that bridge. Like I've been there before. And then I kept telling Clyde probably 6 or 7 times that I was having deja vu, like massive deja vu, to the point to where it was starting to freak me out a little bit. And he's like, well, I get that all the time. It happens to me, but it don't happen to me. And so what should we do in those moments? Should we just let them pass through, or should we investigate them?
No, I think I would investigate it, because first of all, it acts like a trigger to you. So something's hitting you at the subconscious level. Now, finding out what timeline that was, or even an induction or contactee experience that could have correlated to that event also. I would remote view it or look into it. You're into the occult, so obviously remote viewing or scrying, which is pretty much the same thing, but literally going in and tapping in and bringing it to you and seeing what's going on there. I was just communicating just a while ago about the filing cabinet, and so far as going in on timelines and looking in to see what's there, what we need, what we don't need, and seeing if there's something in there that needs to be removed. So maybe that's something you need to look at. If it's leaving an imprint, if it's triggering you in some way and just activating you on some level, then I would definitely look at it like that and remote view it and see what's going on.
Okay. Interesting. So I don't think I'm not real talented in remote viewing, but you brought up scrying, and that's something that I'm very familiar with, but I use like the the old system to where you could maybe scry into a tarot card or scry into a tattoo symbol or something. But do you use those same kind of methods when you remote view, or are you just like before?
No.
You're adept and you can just do it?
I can just basically, I just bring it to me, whatever it is, I can see it. Usually, if there's something with scrying, then I was going to suggest too, you can, I always mention the old school way of doing the water with the black ink. I mean, that's a good way to scry, but anything like that can certainly bring it in for you. But the remote viewing is just like with me, it's like a miniature telescope, and I've been able to see things that are very unusual. And a lot of that has to do with it's like miniature worlds. They look very microscopic when I look through that program. It has a lot to do with the technology, in my opinion.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah.
And Barney's asking, if we have untapped abilities, is it possible to turn the harmful intentions bombarding us against the cabal, to turn them off? I think we talked about that earlier, right? But this whole cabal thing, I don't know what that is yet, honestly. So,
well, I think there's always an adversary, and I think the more you grow and evolve on a spiritual or consciousness level, or even in occultism, you're going to get a challenger. Bottom line, you're going to get something that's trying to challenge you to some degree. And what I've realized throughout the years is just mastering your abilities. And say it's good practice to some degree. Psychic self-defense is excellent. If you feel like you need to shield yourself and deflect an attack, do it. Bottom line, you're not to be victimized on this timeline or any other. I've always told any of my students that you are here to be empowered, not here to be disempowered. That's the bottom line. We're not bullies, but we don't tolerate abuse either. And I think that's something that we need to look at. With the technology, it's a little more challenging, but we still can overcome it. Look at me. I've gotten through something that probably should have killed me years ago. So technically speaking, we have the power to do these things.
Okay, cool. So you would consider yourself an adept then, right? Like where a lot of us are trying to figure out how to use these abilities. You are able to just tap into them, so to speak. Right.
I mean, I'm saying I'm always there, but I'm capable. There's no doubt about that. But I think you are too. I mean, I think everybody is. Bottom line is it's just about repetition. The more you do it, the better you get, the more powerful you become. And that's the bottom line. And the more you practice and do remote viewing, the more powerful and precision it gets. It's just like anything else. It's like a martial art.
Yeah, so you're just kind of, which you're familiar with, right? You're a certified Black Belt instructor.
I am
right?
a certified second-degree Black Belt in Taekwondo, mixed martial arts, but yeah.
Yeah, so you know what it takes. Yeah. You know what it takes, like discipline and self-practice every day.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's also part of energy, and consciousness. It's your universal life force energy in a different formula, martial arts.
Okay, well then let me ask you another astrology question, because people talk about your natal charts and your birth charts, and I get this whole thing where I understand the difference between Western tropical astrology and Eastern and all the different forms of astrology. But as a normal person that kind of believes in this thing, we get a little confused as to which one we should be listening to, or if any of this stuff matters, which one matters more, which chart matters more. It's a very confusing thing.
It is. And you're right. And the one thing I do timeline astrology, and I don't really put much emphasis on that, to be honest with you. I just look at the snapshot of the entry point on the time of the birth and the illusion of when they enter onto the timeline, and that's it. And then I go into multidimensional fields. I don't even bother with a lot of this. I'm your atypical astrologer right now, because what I do is way off beyond the configuration of what people have been trained to do here on this timeline. Not that it doesn't work, and not that their astrology isn't good. It's a very old system. But what I'm working with is the big coordinates connected to the multiverse, and I feel like a lot of that is unnecessary, because we're moving and changing through our states of multidimensional mastery, and we don't need a lot of that. If you start programming people into believing certain aspects of this and this and this and this, and this house is here and this house is in there, it limits them, and it puts a construct in their psyche, believe it or not. So you have to be really careful with those things. Just telling people in general. That's what I definitely don't program stuff like that. I look at the timelines.
Yeah,
that's just me, though.
Well, no, I understand, because I get personally frustrated with the sun sign thing, where people just look at their sun signs and they go, well, this is who I am. And they keep telling themselves that this is who I am. And I'm like, well, you're way more than that, though.
Right. Yes, you're right. You're right. Yeah. I mean, it's okay to be proud of your zodiac sign, whatever. But the bottom line is we are multidimensional beings. We are immortal soul, spirit, consciousness. And that's just one little thing on a timeline. It's a snapshot and an entry point on a timeline, and that's all it is. And you can take it with you. Once again, it's a tool in your toolbox, and it helps your persona. But the bottom line is who you really are is much more than that. Plus, you've incarnated on and off planet, which means you've had other things happening in other space-time configurations that don't even correlate to astrology.
You know, I've noticed too that, and you're not the only person that's said this, but we've had quite a few people that have talked about, like, since 1980, I think it was like 82 or something. I think PMH Atwater talked about this. She said that there's more, I guess, more hypersensitive people coming into the planet right now. I don't know if that's true or not, or if we always have been, but is that true to you? Like, there's more, I guess, what do you call INFJs or sensitive or super psychic people? Some say indigo here. Children. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've heard that. I would personally, after where I've been with technology, I would say that most of the entry points for children that are being born now are more transhumanism. They really are engineered, almost clone templates of another. And you will find that their personalities will be a synthetic of origin insofar as where they come from. And that's just me. That's just me telling you. Insofar as the older starseeds, they are the 80s and the 90s and the earlier generations, absolutely. But I don't feel, intuitively speaking or technologically speaking, that they're incarnating here as that at all. That we're not getting any more indigos. I know there's a big thing saying, oh, it's the children. I get that. But really, come where I've been, and I'll show you the technology that overlays programs onto children while they're in their mother's womb. So no.
Whoa. Okay. So there's people coming here that are programmed. That's
correct.
That is
entity controlled by a synthetic program.
Yeah, that's freaky. Like, I don't want to.
It is, but you notice it. I'm pretty sure you'll probably see it from day to day when you're. I don't know, and you might, but I notice it from day to day. I can tell people who are starseed consciousness oriented versus the regular kind of entity clones, almost programmed. They're just running on a program, and there's nothing there.
Like zombies, right? Kind of almost. Yeah.
And even when you look at the core essence of them, like say, well, maybe that's just a program, and you peel away the layer, and there's a soul spirit, and there's still nothing there. So you have to look deep.
So there's people walking on this earth right now that don't really have a soul? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think, yes. I would say some of them don't have a galactic celestial origin. Yeah. Soul spirit consciousness. They don't come from outside the perimeters. See, we come from the stars, we go home to the stars, obviously. We incarnated here. We are not from here. That's the difference, okay? And people need to realize that. That's what the alien intelligence is about, by the way, my new book, Our Cosmic Origins. It talks about some disinformation in the UFO area, too, and also the warfare programs and the psychological warfares and the psyops.
Interesting. So if I read that book, will I learn better how to, I guess, figure out my own origins? Or is it just about the story of origins in the book?
Well, it's not about your personal origin, but in my opinion, you will expand a great deal in consciousness and understand and have more of an awareness of what's really happening here in the space-time continuum.
Yeah,
I'll get you a copy.
Yeah, that would be great, because I would love to. I mean, I'm interested in that stuff. Not only am I interested in my genealogy with the ancestors and stuff, that's something else, too, I was going to ask you about. Like, you hear people, like, say that. Tap into your ancestors and tap into this. What does my ancestors really have to do with what I'm doing right now? Is it important or is it not?
Well, the only time it would be important is if there's a vow and contract or there's something karmically that needs to be released on the timeline. Say you have ancestors that had some hardcore stuff going on and they never resolved their issues, or they have entity attachments through generation to generation to generation, then you'd want to go in and release some vows and contracts and maybe do some inner work just to let go of any baggage that's been loitering around on the bloodline. But insofar as what I call ancestry, when I call about it's cosmic ancestry, we bring in our cosmic celestial heritage, which has no baggage whatsoever, and that's what we're really looking at.
Okay, cool. So we just need to focus on what we're here to do. Although it is
picture.
Cool
just
to figure
think big.
Yeah, it's cool.
It is. I love it. I have very cool ancestry, and at the same time, when I look at my ancestors, they were all involved in the occult, and they were Masons, high-ranking Masons, and Eastern Stars, and everything else. So it all bleeds through.
And on your radio shows, you got 2 radio shows, right? So do you separate, like, is one a certain topic and then you do one about a different, because I know they're Raven Star's Witching Hour, and then you have Hyperspace. So are they, do you talk about the same things on both shows, or is it
pretty much? It's kind of open topic. I would say Raven Star's Witching Hour is kind of like that. Sometimes we get a little political, but we kind of steer away from that. We can. There's too much fusion going on right now and polarization. But with both shows, they're both similar insofar as the way the format is. The only exception is Raven Star's Witching Hour. I think is a little more. It's more casual is the word. It's a little more relaxed. Yeah.
Okay. So, and in our personal development right now, what is it that you feel like that everybody is going through? Like, are we here to learn more about astral travel or remote viewing, or do you think it's do you think there's even a timeline like that where we're all learning something as a society, so to speak?
I think it's mastering all of those abilities, what I call avatar consciousness. So that's everything in all of it. Bringing in the multidimensional design would actually activate all those things. The problem that we're running into is that when we're being activated through our DNA and our celestial heritage and what people call ascension work, is that there is an interference pattern being run with covert technologies and warfare departments, which literally runs a disruption to the evolution of people here. So you're dealing with some friction as you evolve and ascend. But we're already ascending. Like I said, we're already ascended. But the idea is to master all those abilities and utilize them and be ready to utilize them as guided. I think that's the biggest thing, because once you know who you really are, the star being inside the body, then everything else here is really, it's just you just kind of, I don't want to say you float through everything, but you glide through everything with more of a peaceful observation versus getting caught in it all.
Yeah, because when you talk about chemtrails and you talk about the 5G and artificial intelligence and transhumanism and programming, it makes you think like you're trapped, right? It does.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I think that's probably part of the co-op, if they have a co-op at all. That's probably what would be part of it, is trying to convince us subconsciously that you're trapped. There's nothing you can do, because you hear that from people, right? Like, there's nothing you can do. This is just going to happen. I've had people on the show tell me that. I mean, it just is what it is.
Oh, there is something we can do, and that's what your show's about, and that's what my show's about. And those of us who are out here, we are addressing what's going on, and that's the biggest thing, is to not turn away from it, but observe it, address it, and no fear. Just let everybody know what's happening here. I think that's the biggest thing anybody can do.
Right, and I believe I'm totally with you on that. And looks like we have a caller from the 503 area code online. Who are we speaking with right now? You're Solaris BluerRaven.
Hi, it's Nish.
Hey, Nish, what's up?
Hey, Nish. I love you.
Pardon me. I love you too. I'm calling in to give my love and support to both of you. And I'd like, Solaris, if you could clear up some information for the general public, or as you see it, and I've heard you say many times, and I'm with you on this, is the idea that we are the aliens.
Correct. That's right. That's what my alien intelligence book is about. Yeah, that we are the extensions. We are actually the aliens we seek. We are the extraterrestrial essence of origin incarnate here on this timeline. And that's one of the things that's created such polarization here on the timeline. So yes, that's exactly it, that we have to accept who we really are, and what we really are is the off-world species here. And it's not about looking like a gray or a reptile. It's literally the celestial star beings. And then that's what we are. So that's what the alien intelligence is. We all contain the alien intelligence within us. It's a correlation between us and a cosmic creator source. And that is the divine presence of what we really are. So I hope that clears it up a little bit.
Well, then so then when people see these aliens like grays and stuff, is that, because I've heard people say, well, that's just artificial intelligence. I mean, are they a part of us, or are they something totally different then?
Well, remember, it's given to you according to your beliefs, for one. So if people are thinking about something and they're manifesting something, or they're afraid of a particular thing that might manifest in that formula, I do know that we have warfare programs that will create and simulate a type of extraterrestrial, which could create a scenario and a screen memory that would kind of correlate to some of those things. I'm not saying that's all what people are experiencing, but I will say that there is a high chance that some of that is psychotronic and a projection of psyops. So but the extraterrestrial origin, the real essence of origin, is pure. It doesn't look anything like that. It doesn't look like what they're trying to describe and create the collective to observe as an extraterrestrial. I think that's once again, you're dealing with psychological warfare and pulling people into areas where they really don't need to be focused on those areas, focusing on themselves and the pure essence of who they really are.
Okay, so now that we got Nish here, right? So Nish, and like in old scriptures and stuff, we see that, and I don't know if it's true or whatever, but the scriptures, especially like the Book of Enoch, they talk about how the Watchers came down and gave us heavenly, or I guess you'd say divine secrets that weren't supposed to give us. And a lot of these secrets were, besides the weaponry in war from Azazel or whatever, but the other stuff was like healing with roots and divination and things like that, which is pretty much magic in the occult. I mean, does that play a role in, it seems like it's backwards to me sometimes. I wonder if the whole religious idea and these scriptures and this God, Jehovah, that most of us are taught to worship and stuff is more of like this program trying to keep us from figuring out who we really are, or is it all a part of a plan because back then all that stuff was forbidden, right? And now people are like, well, this stuff is helping me figure out who I am. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Well, to me, I've always seen religion as a control mechanism. It's control, manipulate the mass collective, steer their psyche in an area where they can control and manipulate what's going on in the reality on the timeline. For us, we're ancient, we're celestial, beyond 26 billion years old, so we contain all these components. You have all those abilities. That database, the full Akashic, which is not from the space-time configuration, is already embedded in your cells and atoms. So all you have to do is do the work, spiritual work, do the research in your own cells and atoms, and you'll find that you're a natural healer, that you're a natural psychic, that you have all these abilities, and that nobody can take them from you or tell you that you have them or you don't have them. You're a cosmic divine being that comes from the cosmos. And I think that's the biggest message I try to get across to people. The why are you looking for something else when you are it? It's within.
Yeah, that is pretty. It's pretty.
I've got an amen on that.
Right? But I mean, it's pretty insane. Like, if you understand, let's just take the tarot, for example, right? And this, it's just a tool with symbols on it. And you think, oh, well, it's just cards that shuffle and, in random order. How can this mirror the moment or talk to me, right? But every single time, especially if you do it on your own and you don't really read for anybody else, this deck of cards keeps telling you either answers or mirrors the moment to a T every single time. So it's weird how that works. Like, we think this stuff is exterior.
Well, that's how your consciousness interacts with it. Yeah, but that's what I mean. And that shows that you're an adept as well. But the bottom line is your consciousness is already having an exchange with the data that it's observing. It's just through the psychic imprint. And sometimes if you come from a family that is a very good at reading and they come from the tarot, you'll find that some of that is from your ancestors as well. Some of that database is the cellular energy in there is connected to the imprinting on the tarot deck.
Interesting.
You might be able to do things your ancestors did. In other words, I know I can do things that my great grandmother did and my grandmother, and I inherited some abilities like that.
You got any comments on that, Nish, about the tarot or anything?
I don't, but I am going to get up here after this question. So I have one more question that Solaris can probably follow up on after the break, which is, what do you think, Solaris, is going on with the narrative now being pushed with the space wars and all of the stuff that's going on? It's really starting to come online. And it definitely seems like a narrative. So when you guys come back from the break, I'll be listening. I love you, Solaris. I love you, Joe.
I love you too.
We love you too, Nish. Thanks for calling in and saying hi.
Good night.
Night.
Yeah, Nish is cool, right? So
I love her so much. Yeah,
that is awesome. A good question. I had that in mind too, like the whole Space Force thing and stuff. And is it really, because we got NASA already. And it seems to me like NASA's like this thing that's only worried about satellites and the orbit and stuff. And now all of a sudden they're worried about Mars and terraforming planets. And yet, here's the weird part. Private sectors like Elon Musk and Virgin Mobile, Virgin Galactic, whatever you want to call them, they're doing more as far as travel goes, or at least exploring more, showing us that these rockets can be reused, which is something that, a guest of ours has said many times. I can't think of his name right now, but he's been on the show a couple times and then just disappeared, said that, we could have reused these rockets. Instead, they made monuments out of them, and it doesn't make any sense. It feels like there's some type of illusion going on for real with all this.
Yeah, I know if you are going to hit a break, let me know, but we are heading, insofar as that goes, there is a need for global domination, and that means he who controls the skies controls everything else. And what I'm seeing with the new space fleet is actually bleed through from the Black Space Program into and onto the new space fleet, where they'll be able to monitor everything from A to Z, and that includes covert warfare and being extracted into a covert warfare program illegally. And that's what happened to me in 2004. So kudos to them if they master that. If they have integrity, that's fabulous. If they don't, we're in for a ride. So we'll have to look at it and see how it plays out. But it is definitely a bleed through from the Black Space Program, if you ask me. And that's what we're looking at, is like nothing is new under the sun.
That is true. Nothing is new under the sun, for sure. And I think we're finding out that more and more as we look at these energies and look at stuff that's happening to us. Solaris BluerRaven is our guest tonight. You can call in at 1-800-588-0335. Stay with us. We'll be right back after these messages.
This is Crow 777, and you are listening to The Fringe FM.
I'm Ryan Gable, and I want to remind you to keep your radio, phone, tablet, or computer tuned to The Fringe FM, and visit the website thefringe.fm to listen to the entire lineup of shows. You can also catch my broadcast, The Secret Teachings, Monday through Friday, beginning at 12 a.m. midnight U.S. Pacific Time, right here on The Fringe FM.
Alex X. Hi, I'm Alex Exum, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
Ever seen an extraterrestrial? It can be hard to believe they exist unless you've seen one for yourself. What if I told you I've seen them my whole life, but have never had a witness who shared the encounter with me? Now, what if I told you I saw 4 of them, 2 with blue skin, and there are over 20 witnesses to this CE5 event? My new book, The Blue Beings, Visitation at the UFO Conference, documents actual accounts from real witnesses, many of which have gone on record to attest to this otherworldly reality. Be a part of a quantum paradigm shift that is taking place right now. Go to johnpolkmedia.com to get your copy of The Blue Beings, Visitation at the UFO Conference, on sale right now at johnpolkmedia.com. That's JOHNPOLK media.com.
Listen, I want to tell you about G.I. Joy from GetTheT.com. It's the best alchemical concoction of goodies for your stomach and digestive system I can recommend, and that's all based on my experience. Packed with colostrum, acidophilus, aloe, peppermint, and turmeric. If you do your own research, then you know this is the bee's knees for the stomach and digestion. Now, due to Big Brother's ears and the eye in the sky, you know I can't go into the details about what it helped me with. All I can say is I got relief. It's non-GMO, no fillers, no preservatives, manufactured right here in the US of A, and delivered to you by the only people who stay on top of the game and are out in front. Go grab a bottle of G.I. Joy at GetTheT.com and see what all the fuss is about. Again, that's GetTheT.com.
This is Reverend John M. Polk. Please visit me at johnpolkmedia.com and visit my show, Quantum Hologram Matrix, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, every Tuesday on thefringe.fm.
Hey Fringe FM listeners, did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
Do you want to know the truth? Are UFOs real? Are aliens visiting Earth? Are governments around the world hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO Seekers, official partner of the Fringe FM, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Join us as we investigate locations like Area 51 by subscribing on YouTube at youtube.com/UFO Seekers.
Hey, is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
Hola, Fringe listeners. This is Dave Cruz of Beyond the Strange, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
To call Joe, pick up the phone, dial 1-800-588-0335, toll free from the United States or Canada. You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
All right, welcome back. Tonight we're here with Solaris BluerRaven, and I want to thank Nish for calling in. And some of you, obviously, I've missed your questions in chat. And here's the thing, like, I'm trying to focus on 3 or 4 things at once, so you may have to re-ask them, because when it gets so far up in the chat and I've missed it, I can't really go back and try to find it while I'm trying to pay attention to the conversation here. So maybe we may need to make like a dedicated like hashtag questions room or something. But, you know, it was a good question that Nish asked when she called in, Solaris, about the Space Force and all of this stuff. And I wanted to look into that just a little bit deeper with you, because NASA has kind of been like, I'm not an anti-NASA person. You know, I'm not one of these people that go around saying, well, NASA's giving us fake pictures and they're government controlled. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. But I know that we've done some historical things with NASA, but there's always seemed to be something else going on. And you said before the break, it's all about control, right? Warfare and covert warfare. And when you say covert warfare, are they pretending like, okay, we want to terraform it, we want to go to all these planets and stuff, but what's really going on is they're trying to control like the satellites and the orbit and what's around us,
Taking
right?
the territory. Yeah, absolutely. They'd probably want to stake the territory and claim it as their own and in their own domain. And of course, that with that comes weaponization of the territory and dominance in the space with black satellites or any other kind of satellite for that matter. Yeah, we're looking at something like that, in my opinion. And of course, covert warfare means anything that's technological, from psychotronics to directed energy weapons to whatever it is that works in space. And that's something we need to take into consideration here when we have these ominous fleets over our skies at night. We have to realize what their capabilities are. And of course, that's on a global scale as well. And then once again, I get back to the space-time configuration. Remember, we are not, now I'm going to tell you this point blank, this is part of my book, but we're really not in the right space-time configuration. And with that comes different orbit, different planets, different this, different that, different moon. So once we change the space-time configuration, if we were to do so, none of this would be here. Okay, so just kind of keep that into perspective as you navigate.
So you're saying that we can like consciously change this stuff? Like, we're not powerless, right? We could change.
We're not powerless at all. It's all frequency driven, every bit of it, right down to where we are on the map in the illusion of the space-time configuration.
Now, when
they want you to believe that, though.
When you hear people talk about soul and spirit contracts, that's something that I've ran into as well, like a karmic contract or some type of spirit or soul contract. And I'm like, it's another thing that makes me feel like I don't have free will here, you know? And so there was a guy that I forget his name. I forget his name, but he made this statement that you could do in meditation, you know, make a circle, like a sacred circle, and deny all these contracts. Not deny them, but just pretty much say you're done with all of them. Release them. Mm-hmm. And here's the weird thing. I did it, okay? So I did this ceremony where I released all these karmic contracts. And for about a month and a half, really great things started happening in my life. And I felt like I was on my way out of this thing. Like, it really felt like I did release them. And then it kind of creeped its way back in. So I'm like, man, what in the hell is going on here? This is bigger than just making a statement and letting the energy come in. It feels like a constant battle, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. Right. Did you continue on with the vows and contracts, or did you just do it one time?
Well, according to what this guy said, I remember his name, I'll say it. But he really only talked about doing it once, right? And but it was a very kind of like big deal. You know, you had to go out in the woods and you had to make a sacred circle and you had to really get into the visualization and releasing the stuff. And it worked. But it seems like the stuff creeps back in, or maybe I slipped into a different timeline or something. I don't know.
Well, you know, what's interesting to me, and I've done vows and contracts before, and I do know that if you do it as an affirmation and you do it on a regular basis, if you feel like it's working, and then maybe something's encroaching in your energy field, do it again and keep kicking it out until there's a resonance effect into multiple fields of energy. That's my suggestion anyway, when you're working with vows and contracts. And insofar as things creeping up, there's a lot of what I call entities and entity attachments. And like I said before, there's always a challenger. The more you become empowered and you're freeing yourself, you're freeing your energy field on multidimensional levels, the more you'll get it challenging, sometimes with different things that happen where it will try to pull your energy back. And you strike me as somebody who's very, very powerful. So if you start releasing vows and contracts, you're freeing your energy, you're becoming more powerful, you're going to become more of the avatar consciousness, and that would, of course, intimidate the entities or whatever attachments that were there previously. It's kind of like a bad relationship. You've got to cut the cord and move on, and that sometimes there is a little bit of blowback.
Yeah. Dale, that's something I'd like to talk to you about too, because there's okay, so let's just say that you have a family member, so to speak, or somebody that you really care about, and or a new friend that comes into your life that you really care about. There's some type of connection there. There's some type of soul family there too, but you can tell that it's almost being fought against, or it's being warred against, right? And so you got certain people saying, well, you should just, cut the cords and get rid of it. And other people saying, well, maybe there's some kind of divine thing here you need to figure out. So the only thing I know to do in that situation is really not listen to everybody, but go deep inside myself and try to figure out what's going on here. And then when you figure out that person is who you thought they were, it's almost like you can't really do anything about it, because I think there's some kind of thing that's going on that's trying to keep us from finding our soul family too, if that makes any sense.
Very true. Very true. Twin flames, especially when you are with your twin flame or soulmate, and you have many, by the way, but the bottom line is when you are together, there's a unified power that is phenomenal, especially if they're coming from the same multidimensional space-time configuration. So yeah, that would be intimidating to, once again, anything that would not want you to evolve on that very powerful level. So I do see that happening quite often, where those of us who are very empowered and would be more empowered with our divining rod of our twin flame or whatever it is, seem to be interfered with quite a bit. But definitely, you do the right thing by going within and following your heart and listening to your soul, spirit, consciousness, and fine tuning that, and realize that maybe in a relationship, so I'm just using this theoretical, but say you have somebody like that in a relationship, both of you would need a clearing of entities and really clear out whatever it is that's conflicting with you two being unified as a couple. Because sometimes, in my opinion, that could be jealousy, a lot of envy, a lot of resentment, maybe from past relationships with somebody else, or who knows what. But that's what people need to look at, and not don't judge too harshly insofar as what's happening.
Yeah, but you also start to see how it affects everybody else around you, and it's like I believe in this field of like the unconscious, what Carl Jung talks, the collective unconscious, which I think he was struggling to figure out, hey, is this the spirit world, or is this the doorway to the spirit world, so to speak? And when that place comes around, it's almost like people they'll say things to you that they're not aware that they're saying to you, right? And you can see the agenda underneath it, but they don't, and it's like, why are you trying to tear this thing apart, this friendship or this soulmate connection or whatever it is? Why are you trying to do that? And it always seems like there's third party stuff that gets involved. And I think it feels kind of doomy and gloomy. Does that make sense? Because you can't control what everybody else does, thinks, or say. You can only control what you do,
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's the bottom line, is just stay clear in your own orbit and don't let those other distortions pull you down. And that goes for anybody else that you get involved with down the road. I mean, that's just the way it rolls with there's always going to be people in the background. There seems to be like there's always somebody there that's not happy with themselves and wants to lash out at someone else. But do pay attention to that while you're here, because empowerment and being part of what I call the star family, when we all find each other, even we're just working together, we're walking each other home to the stars and the multiverse again, and sharing information. I think that's extremely important that we maintain that camaraderie.
What's funny about when you say star family is that I told you during the break that I read a lot of Robert Monroe, and when I got to his third book, he did realize that in his third book that he belonged to this like cluster, and he never could describe it fully, but it was almost like a star cluster and an energy. And he said he even heard a song that a music or a song or something that he knew he was home, like really home,
That's beautiful.
And all he could do was just make this certain movement, like that was his job, was to do this certain vibration, and that was it, and that was really trippy to me, because when I got into the occult and I studied things like Theosophy and other, the Golden Dawn and Rosicrucianism, all these people say, you're a star, right? You are like a part of a star, and I'm extremely attracted to the night sky. I can't help it. Like when I look over the stars, I feel pulled to that, and I think a lot of us do, right? Yeah. That's the thing that we should be tapping into more, right?
Absolutely. You're spot on. Yeah, I call them. I touched on this in my book, but cosmic downloads, cosmic cocktails, where you're literally downloading, whether it's a star coordinate or a coordinate from a star or whatever it is you're attracted to in the cosmos, bringing in that energy and actually downloading it into, like, for example, a glass of water and programming it into the water and drinking the water and actually raising your vibration to harmonize with that particular frequency. And that's just an example of what you can do. But yeah, you're spot on. That's really what it boils down to, is connecting and reconnecting into that ancient code and that celestial heritage.
Wow. Yeah, see, and you can't help but also find people that's in your soul family. Like, it doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't matter. I mean, let's take the internet, for example. What is that? Think about it. Like, we created that as a collective consciousness so we could come closer while we're here, I think. You know what I mean? Like, we are, if we don't think we have power, then why are we creating these mechanisms and technology and everything, using like divine hermetic truths, to come together? Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like, we manifested the internet.
Well, yeah, that's true to some degree. We have a lot of power in the internet, more than people realize, especially with the truth media that's out right now. There's a lot of that going on. And plus the resonance effect of people who are connecting. Like, I would never have met any of you, even with Niche and such, had we not been on the internet. So that's what the blessing is. We're sharing the information in another field of energy.
Yeah, think about the telephone, right? Somebody in their mind was like, hey, I want to talk to somebody that's not here, And everybody else chimed in thinking, you're crazy, man. You can't do that. But the telephone's nothing to us now, Nobody talks anymore, which I think is another problem,
Right.
I think, because I can't, let's say you and I were talking, right? And you and I kind of like we're texting back and forth. I can't feel your energy that well. I don't know why, but if I hear your voice or if I see your facial expressions, things like that, I can definitely feel your energy. So at the same time, I think some of these things are being created to tear us apart, maybe too,
I agree. It does put a wall between relationships and people in general. There's no doubt about that. So people do, I think there's something to be said about meeting people in person still and looking them in the eyes and communicating with them. And definitely, you're right. Hearing their voices and looking at them and observing them definitely is a big, huge difference in energy.
Absolutely. And if you go on Facebook, you can see it. I just observe it now. I like to post what's really on my mind there, but I also have becoming a bigger observer of that. And I can see, you can see energy, especially polarity at play.
Oh, yeah.
You
Sure.
can just see it playing.
Yeah, you have to be careful with all that. Paper, and some of it's paper tigers, and people waste their energy in the wrong areas. And that's something, once again, it's psychic energy. Where are you putting your psychic energy? Are you just going to imprint it all the time on the internet? Or are you going to utilize it in another direction? I think, radio is a good way to channel energy. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I love radio. I can tell you do too. So
you're good at it.
Cool.
Yeah, you're awesome.
Thanks. Yeah. And so are you. And I wanted to ask you a little bit more about synthetic telepathy. Anytime I hear that word synthetic, it freaks me out. Telepathy on a natural level is good, but when it's synthetic, does that mean, is that bad? Does that necessarily mean it's bad though?
Well, it's how it's used. If it's weaponized and it's not used for the highest good, then obviously it can be damaging on a lot of different levels. Synthetic telepathy in general is not a bad thing at all. Once you're interconnected with the technology, it's, in my opinion, I've always said that it's good for astronauts and people in covert divisions and Secret Service, beyond Secret Service, because you don't need you don't need a headset and a radio. You're literally interconnected live feed real time. But the problem is that some of these covert divisions are using this technology for extraction of data and inserting screen memories and programs and such, and also interrogation. So it becomes a monster out of control. And this is what we have to look at. And that's one of the reasons I put my books out and address it, because I witnessed it firsthand, what they've done with it and what they can do with it, which is very nefarious.
Man, see, and we're getting back into the freaky stuff again too,
Yeah.
Like, okay, there was this guy, and I've watched these debates online too about artificial intelligence with people like Jaron Lanier, and he speaks up and says, technology is a really good thing. It's inevitable that mankind is going to use technology to bring consciousness closer together, to do many things together. It's inevitable. But the big question in the debate that they were talking about is, are we at a state of consciousness where we're ready for that? Because it's also very dangerous if we let this thing get out of control as far as artificial intelligence goes. And this is a topic I don't think people are really, we talk about it, but then it's kind of exhausting because I don't really understand it. But at the same time, is it not the most potential most dangerous and powerful thing that technology could be doing with us right now. I don't think we're necessarily ready for machines to do what they want yet, is what I'm saying.
No, no, you're not. But the interface with machines is more concerning, because if you like your privacy and you don't want your mind invaded, then that's something that you need to look at down the road, because that type of technology interfaces with your brain to a point where it will be trying to read your mind. It's kind of like was it Minority Report? You're literally in a space where you have a third-party access to your brain and information, which I find to be kind of a violation on a universal scale. So that's something to be concerned with. The other types of robotics and things that they have with software and artificial intelligence is not really a concern to me. It's more about the weaponization of the brain and what they can do. And you can get educated too. It could be like the Matrix, where you can be extremely smart and be, fed a lot of data streams of information. That could be great, but there's a price to pay for some of this stuff. And from what I've seen, some of these guys are just like madmen. They don't care.
Yeah, that's the thing. Okay, so that's the thing that I'm kind of worried about. Like, and Jared Lanier, he talks about this, and this guy worked for, he's had a background in this stuff big time, and building artificial intelligence, and he said, on a conscious level, as a society, the way we are towards each other right now with warfare and polarity and stuff, we're not ready for that. It's almost like he was saying, if we were just a little bit higher on consciousness as far as the community goes, then we could really use this to our advantage. But the way things are going now, it's more like it's dangerous. Kind of like when Elon Musk went to the UN and said, hey, autonomous weapons, not something that we need to be doing. But then again, I don't know if I believe the guy, because he seems just happy-go-lucky all the time.
He's handled. You can't trust Elon Musk. I hate to say it. I like some of the stuff he does, and then sometimes I'm like, oh, no. So you got to look at him a little bit differently these days. But yeah, no, it's no. I agree with you. What you just said.
You don't trust him either, right? Like,
no,
not really.
because I've informed him in the past over. I've not talked to him in person, but I've sent him information on synthetic telepathy. And about a year later, he came out with a neural weave, or the design for it. So I know where he's at. I know where he's heading. And yes, it's a very dangerous program when you get involved in types of warfare projects that they're interested in deploying. But see, the thing is, these people that are trying to talk about this stuff and say it's all rah-rah, this and that, they haven't been interfaced with the technology like I have. I'm the test pilot for this technology, and I can tell them the pros and cons of this technology. They'd listen. And I'd like to go up to them and say, have you been interfaced with synthetic telepathy? Do you understand what this does to the neural circuits? Do you know how this can disrupt the brain? What it does to the psychic centers? And, bottom line is it can weaponize the mind, and people have to be very aware. But you're right. If people were to raise their states of consciousness, then then the interface with machines would probably be very, very peaceful. But you have to realize that most of this is driven by intelligence agency oriented programs where they want to control, manipulate, and what they call re-education. And re-education means it's their way or no way when you're being interconnected with technology.
Yeah. All of that you just said, yeah, right. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm excited about it, because I've honestly, Solaris, I've experienced some things in technology that I'm like, wow, you could do that, especially when it comes to relating with other people. Look, I mean, we can do a lot of things together now, especially with virtual reality and Bluetooth and cloud technology. We can do lots of things together. I mean, we can't touch each other, but we can do pretty much everything else, if you know what I'm saying. I think that's a good thing. However, if it's weaponized and it's being used against us, it's not a good thing. And so what I'm asking you is, I guess, is when the way to beat this is consciousness exploration. Is it not learning what we can do as a person through
mastering
the fields of our consciousness?
Right, true. It's mastering consciousness, and also we're just going to keep navigating and ascending, and that means we're going to enhance ourselves, which really, in my opinion, is more about ascended machine technology. We are machines to some degree. We're bioelectric machines, so we just keep evolving and ascending and mastering our own abilities through consciousness. And really, all the technology is with artificial intelligence is weaponizing our regular telepathy. We're naturally telepathic, so all it's doing is weaponizing that and interfacing with an AI. But let me tell you something, that's also symbiotic interface with machines, which means you can drive drones and you can fly drones and you can fly any type of craft with the interface, the neural interface, which we already are capable and wired for naturally. We are naturally wired for that.
And isn't it in our nature to be a bit dark? And I'm not just saying like all humans have a dark nature at some point. It's like a choice. Which one do you serve? Do you serve fear? Do you serve love? So at the same time, Solaris, I feel like power is power. You know, maybe we need a new structure. Like, look, if you think about the New World Order, this is something that people have been talking about. Like, this is bad. New World Order, bad, 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 bad. But I don't know. Do we need government? Do we need people telling us what to do? Do we need systems of control, so to speak? It seems to me like we do, because I've seen how people act when they get into a group, and I've talked about this with Dan. Like, we all say, oh, we don't need government, we don't need control, we don't need this. But if you ever go to somewhere and you see how people act in a group, a lot of times things just get out of control. They just do, you know, so
right, yeah.
What do we do here? You know,
well, that's part of their social engineering, though. That's how they've been, you know, raised through that program. So they're basically, they need to be deprogrammed. And yeah, it would probably take something like a neural interface to deprogram them. Once again, that is, yeah, it's a love-hate relationship with technology, I must say. And I do look at the path and the course of mankind, and with the exception of those like us who are here, we're very obviously more enlightened without any ego. I say this, but the bottom line is, yeah, something needs to give here, because they're on a self-destruct course as a race. And if they don't watch it, in my opinion, it's not the world that's going to go extinct. It's going to be mankind. So yeah, we need to look at these things.
Yeah. See, you and I agree a lot. I love this, because you are a person that believes that in our potential. You've experienced it. You know that we can do things that we just don't know we're capable of. And once we learn how to do these things, I don't think any amount of technology can stop us. Does that make sense to you?
Actually, we're becoming more powerful than the technology. We can overcome the technology. I'm a living example of that. That's the thing. My spirit has been able to overcome the technology I was interfaced with. That's pretty interesting.
Is there any, I don't know if could you tell us about like a story where you went through something like that?
Insofar as, could you elaborate on the question?
Well, I mean, is it too personal? Like, you know, like what really happened, you know, when you used the technology?
What really happened was, I was interconnected live feed real time with the synthetic telepathy with the live handler. And I went through a lot of sci-spy training where everything was pattern recognition, numbers, codes, serial numbers. And sci-spy is literally, you're the eyes and ears of the program itself. So wherever I went, working security, for example, I would be interconnected live feed real time with my handler. And when I wasn't with my handler, it would be the artificial intelligence interface. So literally being trained by that particular system where everything speeds up, and you're literally able to know things beyond the perimeters of your natural psychic ability. And it's a very, very interesting program. There was also some virtual stuff that happened to me where I would be in situations which looked like miniature rooms where a lot of military personnel, and they would go from room to room to room, for example, and they would have firearms and they would be shooting up a lot of people. And I would get a bang in my head. I mean, this is just to give you an idea of what this technology was covering and entailed, insofar as what I was experiencing, which was more than a virtual feed and sense around. There were visuals, a lot of things that I saw remote viewing, and very, very interesting things that I look at, like they're like miniature worlds. I call them little machine worlds because that's what they look like. But the bleed-through effect and the blowback from technology like that is your eyes change. And eventually I noticed that I have... between my multidimensional sight and the technological sight, I was getting other types of things coming in that were more artificial intelligence, and I had to decode a lot of that. And this is what I mean by once you get opened up with machine worlds and into that interconnected world, other things connect and bleed through and attach on. And I have to watch out for that. And I'm sure people who get pulled into these projects, if they ever did, would have to. I hope that answers your question. I don't know if it does.
Well, I mean, it does in a way, but it sounds to me like you were part of some type of government program that you know what I wonder when people talk to me about this stuff? I don't doubt that you went through this, because I can tell like your brain is moving at speeds mine can't. I can tell, you know, but also I wonder why they haven't taken you out. You know what I mean? I don't want you to go anywhere, please. No. I mean, I don't, but I wonder why they're not coming after you, you know?
That's all right. No, you have to understand this happened in 2004. And I testified in 2006 in the courtroom against my handler and the parties involved, which of course was ignored, the testimony. In 2006, I put out a video which pretty much made sure that I wasn't going to disappear because people were concerned that they were going to pick me up. I also had a national security lawyer at the time who worked he was ex-Signals Intelligence National Security, who was shadowing my case. So I think I had enough coverage in the D.C. area that ensured I wasn't going to vanish. I think that's one of the reasons I'm still around. But it did take, insofar as it took its toll on me on a physical scale. There's no doubt about that. And honestly, I tell people to this day, it probably put my my lifespan in half because of some of the technological stuff that I've had to deal with over the years. But yeah. And now I'm old. I mean, I'm an old dinosaur now, but at the time I was young and I was worried. No, seriously. I'm older than you probably.
Well, I know you're older than me, but you're not a dinosaur by any means.
But you know what I mean. That's why, if you have an insurance policy and you have enough data out there and you make yourself visible. Another thing is I put myself out on the radio as a host. I made sure that I was out there so that it would be harder to take me down,
Right. I got what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know how to ask that question, so I hope you don't
it's good.
mind
It's a
me
good
being
question.
upfront about that.
No, it's
Thank you.
And I have lost people over the years, but I've always wondered that myself, but I'm pretty sure that's why.
Awesome. Thank you for answering that. We'll be right back with Solaris BluerRaven. Please put your questions in chat or you can call in. Stay with us.
Thanks for listening to this broadcast. Need another late night fix? You can tune in every weeknight to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop on The Fringe FM.
Hi, this is David Oman with HouseAtTheEndOfTheDrive.com. You're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM.
I like to listen to Lighting the Void because of the guests, the content, and the host, Joe Roop. He's smart, he's intelligent, and he seems to ask the questions that we all have on our mind. We're all searching for the truth, and Joe helps us get closer to it. I love this show. I love this show. I love this show. Lighting the Void.
What's up, Joe? Hey, man, I just wanted to say your show, dude, keeps getting better and better and better. I love Lighting the Void and The Fringe FM.
Hi, this is Aaron Hunter, host of Real Paranormal Activity, the podcast where we tell real paranormal experiences of people from around the world. And we also conduct interviews with authors, investigators, psychics, and mediums. Real people, real stories, real fear. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on The Fringe FM. See you then.
Hey, this check is wrong. I worked a holiday and 7 hours of overtime. Not getting paid correctly is a real pain. It could also hurt our boss if our company provides out-of-compliance checks. That's right, construction companies doing business with the government can get fined, or officials of the companies can go to jail if the checks aren't right. It's a law. The Davis-Bacon Act has 30 compliance issues for every check, but there is an easy way for construction companies to be in compliance. EMARS offers Compliant Client, a web-based system that finds and corrects all 30 of the possible out-of-compliance check issues. Users of Compliant Client report an 80% savings in time and money. Running a weekly payroll usually takes about 5 minutes. All 15,000 plus clients of EMARS have never had a legal compliance issue. Plus, they sleep better on check day. Contact EMARS at emarsinc.com or call 480-595-0466.
Do you want to know the truth? Are UFOs real? Are aliens visiting Earth? Are governments around the world hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO Seekers, official partner of The Fringe FM, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Join us as we investigate locations like Area 51 by subscribing on YouTube at youtube.com/UFO Seekers.
Paranormal News, I'm Brad Bernards. A new exoplanet mission took to the skies early December 18th on a quest to better understand the metrics of distant worlds. Kate Isaac, ESA project scientist.
CHAOP stands for Characterizing Exoplanet Satellite, and it's a small mission in ESA's science program. It's very exciting because what we'll be doing is following up on known exoplanets. More than 4,000 have been discovered to date in the 25 years since the first exoplanet orbiting a sun-like star was found.
The Soyuz successfully deployed KAPS into Earth orbit about 2.5 hours after liftoff, representatives of France-based launch provider Arianespace said. Space.com reports KAPS' main mission involves examining bright, relatively nearby stars that astronomers know have planets orbiting them. Watching known planets orbit their stars is important to better understand certain characteristics, such as how long their orbits are and how big the planets are. Astronomers are interested in learning about the habitability of distant worlds, which depends in part whether a planet is rocky, closer to Earth's size, or gaseous, closer in size to Uranus, Neptune, Saturn, or Jupiter. KAPS will make high-precision observations of the planet's size as it passes in front of its host star, European Space Agency officials wrote in a mission description. Our neighborhood in space is turning out to be quite the populous planet precinct. Astronomers have found a new exoplanet just a little bit bigger than Earth, orbiting a red dwarf star just 66.5 light years away. It's an excellent candidate, they say, to help fill our vast knowledge gap about the small, rocky planet population of our Milky Way galaxy. Our detection ability and knowledge of exoplanets has practically exploded since the first discovery was published in 1992. Over 4,100 exoplanets have been confirmed in our galaxy, and we now have a much deeper understanding of planetary systems and how they form and evolve. But since we're looking for small, dim, or dark things that are very hard to see from a distance, naturally most of the confirmed exoplanets are chonkers. Those around the massive Earth and Venus are likely to be rocky rather than gaseous. That's one of the prerequisites for life as we know it. Read the news at parabnormalradio.com. I'm Brad Bernards, Parabnormal News.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners, did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone app or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
The Fringe FM isn't just a radio station. We also provide services for all your audio production needs. If you are interested in live radio or pre-recorded podcasts, we're here to help. We even do audio enhancements and voiceovers if needed. If you want to do a podcast or live radio show and even want the option to syndicate on terrestrial radio, from simple audio file enhancement to live production and call screening, we have you covered. We have worked with some of the best professionals in the business in order to provide coaching instruction for content creation, show structure, and more. Contact The Fringe Digital Media for more at info@thefringe.fm. That's info@thefringe.fm. Or call 501-777-5631 for a consultation.
Alex X. Hi, I'm Alex Exum, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Roop. Don't forget, this show's here for you 5 nights a week, 9 p.m. Pacific to midnight Pacific. Also, if you want, you can donate to the show. You go down on lightingthevoid.com, hit the donate button, or grab you a t-shirt and swag. We have got all 50 states filled, I believe, and then we're going to make this big old Void Walker, I think, Pinterest board. I'm working on it. I can't wait to show it to you all, but Solaris BluerRaven is our guest tonight. There's a show host, speaker, clairvoyant, remote viewer, author. I mean, you've got a black belt in Taekwondo. Like, you know, I was talking to you during the break about super soldiers and stuff and what I believe and what I don't, but you are kind of like that. You're like a super soldier, aren't you? For real. You've trained yourself
definitely.
That way.
I've already been there with the technology interface, and I've got I definitely am getting older, but I still can kick some butt. So yeah. Definitely wired for that kind of thing.
Yeah, that is cool. Like, so if the world was coming to an end or we had some kind of fallout, you'd be all right. I think. Yeah,
I should be all right.
You'd be the one that made it. So, okay, so with this technology, the handler, and all the stuff that you were talking about, So if you were to, let's say, go out to a scene or work a scene or something, did they control you, or was it more like a feedback loop that was happening with them?
It was, and initially when I was first being inducted, it was them remotely brain hacking me and remotely controlling me with everything, physical gestures, everything was being manipulated, and there was an artificial intelligence overlay on that. So a lot more manipulation in the very beginning. And then afterwards, when I went to Maui in 2000, it was like 2004, later 2004 and 5, it seemed like things smoothed out a little bit, and I had more control with the interface insofar as communicating back and forth live feed real time. And it was more of a balanced conversation with the handler live feed real time versus the dominance that was happening in 2004 in Superior, Colorado.
Okay. Here's the interesting question from the Fringe FM chat from Dan. He said, can you ask Solaris if she holds any thoughts about the eighth sphere or Ahriman? And I think that's something that I've heard people discuss about. And it might go back to Steiner. Maybe I'm not really familiar with that. Are you familiar with that?
Not at all, actually, to be honest with you. So I'm not real sure. Can you elaborate on it?
Well, the eighth sphere, I'm not real sure. If Dan, you may have to call in, just call in or at 1-800-588-0335, or I can Skype you in if you need to and ask that question. That has a lot to do with our origins and Ahriman and some of what Rudolf Steiner talked about. I'm just now learning it myself, but it makes a lot of sense. So I think it's more like a power structure through spirituality. And I think Steiner also believed in, I don't know if it's animism or kind of like the ascension process of the spirit, where it goes to the elemental kingdom, then the animal kingdom, and then human and all that stuff. And the spirit and the soul were two different things, kind of, so to speak. I don't know. But I have to go back and look. But I'm kind of really more interested in how do I get to this point because you said earlier, adept, right? And this is a word I've heard before. I've heard it in the world of the occult, and now I'm hearing it from you. How do we get to this point of being an adept where we don't have to use tools or trick our mind or use subconscious methods of magic, like low magic type things, to understand that we can just do these things? Is it through work and practice?
Definitely through practice, but also mastering consciousness and, a resonance effect insofar as what you're doing from day to day, your daily practices. Doesn't mean you have to do ritual after ritual. It just means that you set the intent to manifest a reality. And by that setting the intent, you're already setting the parameters for your reality. If you want to do a psychic read on somebody, you just set the intent to do it, and the energy's there for you. And understanding that envelope of energy, that type of a field of energy is always accessible and available to you. I think that's what it boils down to with most people. They seem to think there's a barrier between their psychic ability and something else that's unseen, the unseen forces, but really they are that unseen force. So hopefully this makes sense, but that's really what it boils down to. Like I said, the props are nice and all, but you don't need any of those things. In the end, it ends in the illusion of you are raw energy, you are raw starlight. Right there in the core essence of who you are is capable of everything.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example, something that just really I'm having a trouble with. So every day, like I'll do some type of divination. And what happens is if I use tarot or whatever, it only mirrors how I'm feeling. That's it. Like it never tells me, like say if I wanted to say, oh, okay, what is Solaris? How does she think or feel about me or whatever? It doesn't tell me that. It only tells me how I'm feeling, and then there's other tarot readers that can just tap into anybody and figure out what's going on. That's what I'm trying to figure out, or if that's even real,
That's interesting. Well, usually if you're doing a reading for somebody else, say you want information on another person, technically you're supposed to ask their permission at the higher self level, just as courtesy. But if you don't, obviously, a lot of people don't do that. Not a big deal. But for the most part, I would say if it keeps bouncing back to you, then I would say there's something there that's holding the energy back. There's something that's holding your psychic field of perception, and maybe something you need to look at versus something outside of yourself. So I would do a self-analysis on that if I kept getting something bouncing back to me.
Yeah, it's like
normally
just
when you're working
that.
with right. You're normally not supposed to get the mirror. You're supposed to be able to go beyond the mirror and go into any field of energy you want to go into, whether it's a person or a place, location, whatever, timeline.
Kind of like when
I still think you can. I think you need to get your personality in your head, your personality out of the way. You just have to get it out of the way and let the energy stream,
Well, it's
get
kind
the
of like
emotional
I told
body
you.
and the mental body out of the way. Go ahead.
Well, during the break, I told you about how I was, working with the out-of-body experience, and I found my way out, but I couldn't, find my way, so to speak, out of my yard. And then it got to where I was being pushed back by like shadowy things, or certain things were staring over me. And, you know, I don't know if these are entity attachments or if they're just me. I've had, like Jason Quitz told me they're me. Then I've had other people say, well, they're entity attachments. And it's like, this is damn frustrating. You know, how do you figure these things out? Right.
Right. And do you, obviously, if you're in the occult, you obviously clear your place and you know how to, okay. So you're not going to have any boogies or attachments there.
No, like I know how to do all that, but still yet, when I do the out of body stuff, and this is just like, maybe I need to blend the two. Maybe that's what you're saying. Like, don't just do an out of body thing. Like, use what you know with the occult and then try to get out of body.
Right. And remember, this can be psychic warfare too, and in a sense that you need to master your energy. So if you're being attacked or pushed, you need to push back. You need to realize that that's just created as an illusion to some degree, but push through it and set the intent for where you want to navigate and just go, and you'll be able to travel and you'll be able to get back in your body. That's what I would do. I don't tolerate anything interacting with me if I'm astral projecting or anything else, unless I give it permission to be there. So, and I've had astral hitmen. I mean, I've had voodoo hitmen come after me before, so I know what that's like. When people actually know they're very proficient at astral projection, and I got rid of one year really well. So, but you really have to realize your abilities, and this is what I mean by mastering consciousness. Whatever dimensional field you're in, just realize you're using your mind, but your mind is manifesting a perimeter and a reality, so you can literally push through yourself. You can push through those things and get that, whatever that obstacle was, out of your way. And also use your mind, and whether it's a prayer or an affirmation, sometimes when we use affirmation and prayer on the astral plane or any other dimensional field, it will actually permeate and dissolve and neutralize what's there.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, so I didn't have this kind of stuff happen to me. Like, it really increased once I got on the radio, and I was like, damn, I'm having to do protection stuff, it seems like, every day.
Well, yeah, because you're out here like a magnet, and you have a lot of listeners, and there's a lot of energy. And not that they all have boogies or anything or attachments, but it is the internet, and there's all kinds of stuff floating around. So yeah, you have to do extra shielding and protection. Otherwise you'll have probably more than you need in your house at night.
Yeah, that's freaky. To me, it's freaky because I'm not that I'm scared of it. I just don't want to have to deal with it. It's like, why I put myself in it, deal with it.
Send a violet flame through the house. You'll be fine. I mean, literally, it's just about neutralizing it through consciousness. You don't have to tolerate it. It's not like it has any big power against you. That's what people have to realize too. All these, there is psychic warfare, but most of the time, most of those people are not very good at what they do. And even if people send you like hate mail, that's kind of a psychic warfare in its own weird way. But it doesn't have any value. It doesn't have any power, and that's what people have to realize, that there's really no power to it. And if you feel kind of gunked up, just detoxify and clear your fields and reset your house, and you'll be fine.
What I have noticed though too, and I don't mind sharing this. There's a lot of things I won't share for personal reasons, but I can see things in my dreams. Like, the more I journal my dreams, the more I realize, hey, I'm having premonitions, or my dreams are warning me about stuff. And I can always see what's attacking me in my dream, but I can't see the attacker. Like, for example, I don't know, I can see people using hoodoo, like an open pair of scissors or a doll or something. And my dreams will show me that. And it'll show me the scene, but it will not show me the person.
Have you asked to be shown who the person is?
Yes, I have.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, I would definitely neutralize all that, whatever that's coming from, or whoever's working that kind of energy, unless that's something you're into. And then once again, it's kind of like, are you into that? Or is that something you would do? That's what I always look at. But if I have anything like that, I neutralize it immediately through psychic projection.
Gotcha. Okay.
Use your third eye projection. You're familiar with that, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. The Night Stalker is asking, it's kind of random, but can you ask her if she's ever heard of this, quote, dust that is used for magical attacks? What kind of dust are you talking about, brother?
Not nano dust. Oh, is that the zombie kind of dust? I think they were using it in the UK. I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah,
I've heard of something that they were using that was kind of like a drug. I don't know if it's magic per se. And then it reminds me of that movie Serpent in the Rainbow.
Huh.
But I'm not sure. There's lots of different types of dust you can use to mess with people. Scopolamine is not a dust, though. But yeah.
That's an interesting question. Maybe you can elaborate on that, Night Stalker. So when it comes to these AI, things like that, artificial intelligence, what you call synthetic telepathy, it is kind of clear to me that we're opening up doorways to the spirit world with this, right? I mean, are we not when we do these things?
Yeah. Well, definitely. Like I said, if you get interconnected with the technology, you're multidimensional. You're a spiritual being. You have an energy field that connects to the cosmos. Therefore, there's a bleed through and there's an attachment with the technology itself, which can actually create other entity attachments and make more kind of like a wormhole distortion around the field of the person being interconnected. So that does happen. You get hitchers and all kinds of things that can connect in. Parasites, astral parasites connected into the technology. It's a form of energy any way you look at it, even if it's synthetic.
I got a text-in question here that says, Joe, you mentioned earlier that we can do things to fight back. How can we fight back against satellites, covert technology? What do we? Okay, I see what you're asking. Maybe you can answer this, Solaris, but I think that there have been people in our past time, like Dr. Stylianos Ateshlis, that have been able to not only just to get out of body, but that can act onto the physical world if they wanted to. You know, does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Like he could move things.
Or remotely take things down. You mean like remotely take a satellite down?
Yeah, so anything, you know.
Yeah, I think anything's possible. Yeah, that's definitely, you know, like I said, a repetition and a resonance effect. If you had, even if, I don't think you need a group of people to be able to do that, but I believe in the power of the mind and that the mind can control more than you realize. So yeah, absolutely. That is something to look at.
Yeah, he called it exomatosis, where, you know, he learned how to go out of body in this and stay local, like the level of dimension that we're at now, and could move things. And I wonder sometimes when people say, oh, there were aliens that kind of knocked out the missiles, the nuclear missiles, and they shut it down. To me, sometimes I wonder if it was just somebody that was really skilled at what they were doing and took those things out. If that makes any sense.
That's highly possible. And also that could have been another covert division opponent trying to neutralize the enemy. That's another thing to look at too, but both are possible.
You also talk about how you do Atlantean crystal healing. That's not, I'm not familiar with that. What's that about?
Well, that's more about my celestial heritage and some initiations I went through back in the day, back in the 90s. But what I work with is working in the holographic field of the person, of the client, and working with sound and tonals to clear through the chakra system and move a healing energy down through the chakra system to realign and actually I don't want to say resurrect, but realign the multidimensional field to accommodate different spin points in another multidimensional field overlay, if that makes sense. I know it sounds kind of technical, but it's an Atlantean thing. But I do work with crystals at times and wands as guided, but most of it is based on energetic and etheric crystals and things that are in the field of energy itself. Okay,
cool. Yeah, I want to learn how to do that too. Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Yeah, it's a very nice system. You work more with sound with that one and a lot of tonals, and it's not any kind of like what you hear galactic language or anything like that. It's just more of toning and sounding through the body. The body harmonizes very well with that.
If you could say like one thing that's holding most of us back, right? The one thing that holds all of us back from experiencing all of this, what you talk about, and all of our potential, is it things like religion? Is it social media? What do you think is like the biggest thing that's really holding us all back here?
It could be fear. It could be programming, you know, whether it's religion or just anything in general. I think a lot of people just don't believe in stuff like that, you know, and that's okay if they don't. But I think that once they start understanding what energy is and how it feels to the body, and then their body starts attuning itself to multidimensional fields of energy, they start to realize more what the bigger scenery is. So for me, when I see people who don't really understand what's happening or how to attune themselves to that, I think they should go into or onto some inner work and do some inner work with healing work. I would suggest maybe Reiki or something like that, just a heads up for people who are wanting to get more in tune to some of these things that I talk about.
You know, that's something I want to ask you about, because I've had experiences with friends that have done Reiki and stuff, and they open themselves up. They start doing this long distance thing. And I had a real close friend of mine, they ended up having like a psychological breakdown. It's almost like, what? It's almost like they let something in, you know.
With Reiki, were they Reiki masters?
They said they were, but you know, there's a lot of people that say they are, right?
Yeah, I had traditional Usui system initiation, which was mind blowing back in the day, and this was back in the 90s. But yeah, I mean, nothing gets through that firewall if you have a real initiation, I would say. I mean, technology is one thing, but yeah, I can't imagine people losing it. Go ahead.
You know what happened is they called me on the phone And I still care about this person to this day, but it kind of freaked me out because they were like, their family was noticing that they were having problems, and she said that she could hear my voice talking to her and telling her to do things and that it was all an illusion. And I'm like, listen, I haven't been talking to you in any kind of way, ended up in the hospital too, so to speak.
Wow.
Like the doctors were giving her medication and stuff. And I thought for a minute, like, what did you do? Did you open yourself up to something? Did you do a ritual you weren't supposed to do? Did you invoke something you weren't supposed to? And what they kept saying was what were they saying? Like, I can feel like I'm trying to vibrate this chakra, but I can feel something stopping it, like squeezing it, or I can feel something tapping my brain, so to speak.
Wow. It almost sounds like a directed energy weapon or a remote brain hack. If I had to guess, I would say if she was hearing narratives, that's a real red flag. If she has no background or family history of mental illness, first of all, you have to check and see, because usually adults don't just get crazy all of a sudden. Something happens there that's, to me, the brain hacking, the remote accessing is not impossible, especially through the internet. So people do have to be aware of that. That does go on. And especially if you're doing a Skype session or something like that, you have to be aware.
Yeah, now this was a long time ago. So for anybody trying to guess who it is, you don't know who this is. This was a long time ago. And it's always kind of freaked me out because when people talk about channeling or Reiki, I grew up in more of a high magic tradition. Not grew up, but that's what I'm familiar with, where you constantly do protection. You don't allow certain energies just to come into you, if that makes any sense.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Shielding is important. Yeah.
Yeah, those kind of things just freak me out. So what you're saying is traditional Reiki, like a real initiation, stuff like that, they don't just open themselves up, so to speak.
No, it's very protected and very pure insofar as the initiation itself goes. So, I've never had any issues when I was initiated onto many levels and never had any weird blowback from that. So I have to wonder about, first of all, who she received her initiations from, and also what's going on with them. Were they ready to receive the initiation? Because the body has to be calibrated to some degree for the level of energy that comes in. That goes for anybody who's a medium or a psychic. I mean, you really calibrate to different levels and frequencies of light body or the energies that are connecting in with you. And if you can't calibrate properly, people get disoriented, they get lightheaded, they can have all kinds of symptoms. And of course, that needs to be grounded to some degree. So many things can be factored in, but I haven't heard anybody tell me that before. But I will say one thing, nowadays, Reiki and other systems are, like you said, they're watered down. And there are a lot of people out there who say they're Reiki masters, and I don't think they have the lineage. So, I'm not judging. It is what it is, but you do have to be careful with anything.
I think the same thing in magic too, because there's the occult is on the rise. There's way more people dabbling with magic now than I thought it was just me thinking that, but it's true now. I mean, it just is.
Yeah, and the thing is, they are dabbling, and you're right about that. And that's something that concerns me. Everybody wants to be a witch. Well, you could say you're a witch, you can dress in black, you can do this, you can do that, but really, you're either born a witch or you're not. You're always going to be a magical being usually, but it is a discipline like a martial arts, and you do have to be careful.
Yeah, I would say this too. If you're worried about your image more than you are the actual work, then you probably shouldn't be messing with it. That's what I'm saying.
There you go. Perfect.
Because that's what I keep running into is people want to be seen as this or that. And when I talk to them about the work that they're actually doing, I'm like, ooh, that's, what are you trying to do? Are you just worried about your image to people? Because that doesn't seem like you're getting involved with stuff that can really hurt you. And I don't think people realize that.
Yeah. And the repercussions too. A lot of people want to hex and curse everybody. And I say, be careful with that because man, it'll boomerang right back to you. You'll be really careful with putting out that kind of stuff.
There's a lot of books on that now. There's a lot of courses and books and people doing magic, especially like love spells. That's something that I think is a no-no. Yeah,
agreed.
Trying to force somebody to love you or trying to force somebody into a breakup. I mean, it ain't just books. There's courses on that stuff now.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, but there are a lot of vicious, jealous people out there who would resort to something like that, what I call low magic, But in my opinion, eventually that's going to backfire, and it's going to backfire on the person who deployed it. So once again, be careful what you put out to the universe,
Yeah, no doubt. And I'm glad you're saying that too, because that lets me know that you really know what you're talking about when it comes to this stuff. Because every person that I've ever talked to, about magic is that I know that are real magicians and stuff. They tell me how dangerous it is. They make no qualms about it. They're like, it's super dangerous. So thank you.
It's not a game. It's not some movie out there in Hollywood. I mean, it's real. It's alchemy. You're working in multidimensional fields. A lot of different types of life forms.
Yeah. So dang it, we got to take a break. But all right, I'm going to try to get to y'all's questions. If I got to scroll up 2 miles in the chat room, if you can't ask it again, I'll see if I can find it. I know Mojo, you asked a question. I'm still looking for it. I can't see it, but we'll be right back with Solaris BluerRaven. Stay with us.
Joseph Roop is your host. Pull back the blinds and uncover the truth. This is Lighting the Void Radio.
You're listening to The Fringe FM.
Somewhere between abnormal and paranormal, there's a show called Into the Paranormal. I'm Jeremy Scott. Hear me live Saturdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern on the Fringe FM.
Hey, I'm J.M. DeBoard, and when I want to talk about dreams, I look up my man Joe Root and his show, Lighting the Void.
The Fringe FM isn't just a radio station. We also provide services for all your audio production needs. If you are interested in live radio or pre-recorded podcasts, we're here to help. We even do audio enhancements and voiceovers if needed. If you want to do a podcast or live radio show and even want the option to syndicate on terrestrial radio, from simple audio file enhancement to live production and call screening, we have you covered. We have worked with some of the best professionals in the business in order to provide coaching instruction for content creation, show structure, and more. Contact The Fringe Digital Media for more at info@thefringe.fm. That's info@thefringe.fm. Or call 501-777-5631 for a consultation.
Listen, I want to tell you about G.I. Joy from GetTheTea.com. It's the best alchemical concoction of goodies for your stomach and digestive system I can recommend, and that's all based on my experience. Packed with colostrum, acidophilus, aloe, peppermint, and turmeric. If you do your own research, then you know this is the bee's knees for the stomach and digestion. Now, due to Big Brother's ears and the eye in the sky, you know I can't go into the details about what it helped me with. All I can say is I got relief. It's non-GMO, no fillers, no preservatives, manufactured right here in the US of A, and delivered to you by the only people who stay on top of the game and are out in front. Go grab a bottle of G.I. Joy at GetTheTea.com and see what all the fuss is about. Again, that's GetTheTea.com.
Hi, this is Sammy. Join us in the Deep South as we're lighting the void with Joe Roop on the Fringe FM.
Ever seen an extraterrestrial? It can be hard to believe they exist unless you've seen one for yourself. What if I told you I've seen them my whole life, but have never had a witness who shared the encounter with me? Now, what if I told you I saw 4 of them, 2 with blue skin, and there are over 20 witnesses to this CE5 event? My new book, The Blue Beings, Visitation at the UFO Conference, documents actual accounts from real witnesses, many of which have gone on record to attest to this otherworldly reality. Be a part of a quantum paradigm shift that is taking place right now. Go to johnpolkmedia.com to get your copy of The Blue Beings, Visitation at the UFO Conference, on sale right now at johnpolkmedia.com. That's JOHNPOLK media.com.
Right, me old Chiners. I know it's an ad break, but before you lot shoot off and make yourself a cup of Rosie Lee or whatever else it is you're going to sling down your Gregory Peck, you need to listen to me babble. If, like me, you found your way to Lighting the Void via a downloadable podcast, you might want to take a butcher's at the Fringe FM Wind and Kite. You won't Adam and Eve how many other shows there are or what they rabbit on about. Ancient history, conspiracy, the consciousness, the esoteric, the occult, metaphysics, parapolitical, ufology, technology, and spirituality. reality, to name but a few. They got featured hosts like Ryan Gable, Jeremy Scott, Alex Exum, Tim Doyle, Cortana and Gigi, Susanna Ross, the Reverend John Polk, Michael Deacon and J.D. Lewis. You might find yourself listening to the thoughts and theories of the author of the fish you just finished reading. Or you could pick up the dog and bone, call in and tell everyone your own beliefs or experiences. So do me a favour, before you put on the Ansel or crack open a bottle of vino or roll a joint, go to the Fringe FM and see what you're missing.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
To call Joe, pick up the phone, dial 1-800-588-0335, toll free from the United States or Canada.
All right, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in to Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Root. Right now, we are with Solaris BluerRaven as our guest tonight, as well as in this last part of the show here, the Reverend Dan Lopez, my co-host, has joined us. And, Dan was talking to her about the eighth sphere and stuff like that and digital voices. Here's the thing that I am so curious about, Solaris, and welcome to the show, Dan. Thanks for coming on, brother. And I am curious about what he talked about during the break, which was hypnagogic states. I've had some of the craziest things happen to me, and he and I have discussed these things, like the knocks on the door, things like that, where you really hear knocks on the door and you wake up and you run to the door and there's nobody there. That's happened to me a million times. But also this idea of being clairaudient, which is something that fascinates me, because you talk about hearing from your handler. Like, could you hear the auditory voice like as if it's outside of your head, or was it more like inside your mind?
Oh, it's internal. It's a signal interface, a neural interface, where it's literally more like inside the head, but it's a wireless communication system, bottom line, but it's his voice pattern, live feed real time. So it's just like you and I are having a conversation, but there's none of this electronic, it's not an electronic voice at all. It's very, very interesting.
Does it feel like it's like in the frontal lobe? Like it's that focused?
No, not necessarily. No, not for me. Yeah, actually higher, more in the neural net, but it definitely is an interesting way to communicate.
There's
I don't know if that answers your question.
There's a question here from Mojo in the Fringe FM chat that says, can she explain the concept or point me to something that he can research about the illusion of time? She always says that this on her show, and I have always been curious about the statement, the illusion of time.
Oh, well, it's in my books. Time is a benchmark of measure, and I know other people probably referenced it, maybe not, but basically this world, we operate in time in the illusion of here, when I say the illusion of, because outside the perimeters and the space-time configurations, we don't use time. Time is nothing that's relative to us. We only use it here as a benchmark of measure. That's why I always say the illusion of time. So that's in my books, and I bet you if you were to research in Google, you probably find other people referencing it as well. I'm pretty sure scientists are now saying the same thing I'm saying. There's no such thing as time. It's just something that we use here. And once you realize when you're navigating through multidimensional fields of energy, well, you can go into different timelines because there is no such thing as time. You could set a benchmark and a parameter, just like your remote viewing.
I hope that answers your question. But yeah, I mean, you're right. Like it's based on what? The movements of the sun. That's it, really. We looked at the sun and say, okay, we divided everything up into hours and minutes and all this other stuff, Yeah.
And if you were to speed up frequency, you'd realize that everything would start to phase. And as everything phases, time doesn't exist.
You see, that's something Dan introduced me into, is like tones, right? And I've tried to do this where you put on, your headphones, and it's not like hemisync. It's more like you're just listening to a certain tone at a certain frequency. And I got to tell you, a few times, I don't remember what frequencies they were, but it really did feel like I was losing myself, almost kind of like I'm slipping, I'm slipping out. And I just took my headphones off. I couldn't handle it. I mean, is that something we should be messing around with, you think?
I would follow your intuition with that. I think a lot of the time certain specific frequencies can clear your bioelectric field out. They can clear blockages, energy blockages. Other times, they'll propel you into another altered state of consciousness. And once again, you have to ask yourself, can you stabilize that frequency, or do you just want to disengage immediately? That may be something your sensors are just telling you to put a stop to it, but maybe you should try and see if you can stabilize the frequency, which in my opinion is a code to some degree.
Well, yeah,
the frequencies I used in all of those tones were alpha, delta, and theta.
I think it was fear. I think it was just me being afraid of losing control.
You get in the way. I can tell you right now, you get in the way of yourself.
I don't like.
He's laughing.
Yeah, Dan knows that, because I don't like letting go. You know what I mean? Right. I just don't. I mean, back in the day, let's be honest, when I started my psychedelic adventures, that was something that took a lot for me to let go and see what happens. And still,
yeah, you like to be in control. Well, that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a control freak, I guess. That kind of sucks.
I am too. So I understand that. Yeah, that you don't want to lose control because you never know where you're going to wind up through your altered state of consciousness, perhaps.
Sure.
That goes for anybody.
Yeah, and there's this terrifying video of this girl doing like 5-MeO DMT on YouTube, and once you inhale that stuff, there's no going back. You're not going to stop it, And she's flipping around like a fish, just screaming at the top of her lungs. I'm like, that doesn't look fun at all, Like there's nothing about that looks cool. And I think they wasn't ready for it. So there's a lot of people, what I'm saying, out there saying they're shamans and stuff, and I think they're doing more damage than they are doing good,
I agree. Yeah. You heard of Frank Castle, right? You know who he is?
Frank Castle. The only Frank Castle I know is the Punisher on Marvel Comics. That's
never mind. Well, he's pretty awesome, but he's like the master shaman, but he's done a lot of DMT, and he'll tell you point blank, it's not for everybody. You have to be very, very careful with those things and prepared psychologically, energetically, and even spiritually to progress into another state of consciousness. And I agree with that. I think there needs to be some purification. You can't just go put a bunch of psychedelics in your system and then expect miraculous things to happen. There has to be some kind of a process.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
Don't do it alone.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, don't do it alone. Do it with somebody that you trust, you can confide in.
Mm-hmm.
There is a good question here in the text too. It says Solaris talks about healing systems, and what in her opinion is a beginning healing system. If somebody wants to learn how to heal themselves energetically, what could they start with?
Yeah, and I know we just talked about Reiki. If you get a very good Reiki practitioner, I would recommend Reiki. I think Reiki is a very solid system for healing modalities and using the energy for healing. It also attunes you to your own vibrational field where you can become the conduit and the channel for the energy itself. And it's universal life force energy. So you're not getting taken over by possessed, disembodied spirits or anything like that. You're literally channeling universal life force energy. So that's my suggestion.
What are your thoughts on initiatic systems? It's something we discussed here quite a bit. And, whether it's a Western system and a magical system or an Eastern system, what I've noticed and what I've talked to you about during the break too is like, hey, there's a lot of cool systems out there that teach you things about consciousness and astral travel and everything else. But, and some of them are under the guise of magic. But when you go into these places where they have structure and organizations, stuff like that, there always seems to be like power struggles or they get torn apart or something. So I wonder, are these initiatic systems even worth it? I mean, can't we just do this like ourselves, so to speak?
Oh, yeah. Well, I agree with you on that one. Insofar as if everybody has the power to heal. So that's the bottom line. If this particular person is interested in understanding the complexity of what we are as healers, then there's some great books out there on healing. Hands of Light. I think was it Barbara Brennan. There's some really good books out there that talk about healing in general. But yeah, you're right. There are some power struggles when it comes down to. I've seen that more with covens and initiation through wishes and covens and kind of like the political stuff that goes on. But insofar as regular healing practitioners, if you can come across some really good healing practitioners who are master teachers who I think who have great credentials that I think could help. So. I don't
it's
think
kind of like when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, kind of thing.
Right, and most of the time it's just a reminder. Taking a class, and I mean, I could tune somebody without having to initiate them, and just totally show them what they need to look at, and put somebody on the table and have them work on this person and they'd be running energy. It's not rocket science. It really isn't. It's about opening up the chakra system. So, and opening up the palms and also the crown chakra and allowing for these energies to flow. But once again, divine energies, not personal will and not your own personal energy. You're allowing for divine energies to connect in, which is usually the universal life force energy.
Gotcha. Thank you for that answer. Looks like 978 area code. You're on the air with Solaris BluerRaven. Who are we speaking with?
What's going on, everybody? It's the Night Stalker.
What's up, Night Stalker?
Great show.
What's on your mind, brother?
I had a comment first, but then something she just said. Really great research, by the way. It's really awesome stuff. She just mentioned the covens, and she said the political sphere. Like, does she believe that at the upper echelons they're actually doing magic, like with this tech? Like, does she believe that there's like a symbiosis between like the technocracy and actual magic? And if so, like, where is that going down and who's doing it? And
okay, so you're talking about the technological warfare program I was subjected to, that type of an artificial intelligence,
is
right?
Is there like a magical aspect, like with like everything that goes along with the tech? I'm 100% agreeing with, but is there also like an occult, like magical aspect that's going hand in hand with that?
Oh, sure. Well, there's a
weaponization.
Yeah. No, there's a weaponization of the technology. There's no doubt about that. And so far as the specific areas that are deploying, that are utilizing it, I'm not certain, but I do know that with this type of technology comes the occult and comes the weaponization of the occult. There's no doubt about that. Insofar as covens I've been affiliated with over the years and have worked with, they have no clue about this warfare program at all, which makes them very vulnerable because they can get tagged and not even know it.
Okay, so you're saying, like, see, I've always wondered about that too, because you know how they ask about how Crowley was, they said, well, Crowley was under the guise of British intelligence, and then you've got all these other people that are teaching magic on like YouTube and stuff, and you got people like Joe Rogan who are influencers. I worry about all of this because I think, how could they possibly be being used? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Highly possible. And I've always said to people, if you're using someone else's grimoire, they had a different intent behind what you're trying to do with it. There was a different timeline, different intent, different practitioner. And all these people are taking old ceremonial grimoires or whatever rituals and trying to resurrect them. And it's not going to be the same. It's going to be different. And of course, the initiations make a difference. And also the correlation to what he had and his connections to government. I think people should be aware of these things when they're bringing that in, because then you're bringing in his signature and everything else affiliated with him on those timelines, and it's not necessarily a positive. So be careful with that.
Yeah, something Mark Stavish talked about when he was on here was egregores, things we need to be aware of I guess, the energy fields that they're created that we get involved with, that we think, oh, we're just following a formula, but we're not understanding that we're also tapping into the energy of all the people that were using those formulas,
Correct. Absolutely. Yeah, you're taking in it's like a horde of people, a horde of energy. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think that's the whole idea behind magic in general, but still be careful with what you do. And once again, as we were touching on earlier, it is a dangerous thing. It can be very dangerous. Magic can be extremely unpredictable.
Well, thank you for your question, Night Stalker. You got any other questions or statements before we let you go?
I do.
All right.
I do, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for
it. First, I have two questions. First, you've been speaking a lot about your ability to like naturally traverse the multiverse and beyond like space-time and these multiple timelines and everything, and which is I'm totally on board with. Do you believe that's also like correlating physical locations on the planet, like in our physical dimension, where you can actually traverse space and time, like a portal or a Stargate or something like that? Are you into that at all? And if so, like, where would those be? And who could?
The portals. Well, there's you can talk about ley lines or power spots across the board here in the illusion of space and time. Once again, what I would say when I decide to traverse something, I don't usually go by the benchmark of what's here on this world, even though there's some really cool places to remote view. I look at the multiverse itself, and what I do is I look at timelines, and then I just start to see imagery and data streams of information that I look at on that level. So, but for someone who wants to traverse anything, there's all kinds of portals here and an overlay on this particular world where you can access through. Most of the time, it's through sacred sites where there's a correlation in the star grids with particular portals and access points. connected to ancient areas such as like the Giza Plateau, for example, is the main one. But some of the areas where you can literally hone in on and navigate from that point on. If that answers your question at all.
No, totally. And that's where I was trying to get at with the original question, is that I think these places are now under the custody of like the super elite and like Raytheon and places like that. Like they have their occulted symbolism within like the foundations of this, and they're on these occulted places. I think these mystical places. But also, my last thing, and I'll leave. There was an article that's kind of going around the last few days online about I think it was Tufts University in Massachusetts. They just created a quote unquote living robot using frog DNA that can like heal itself and stuff. This just happened like 3 days ago. Have you heard about that? And what do you think that's about? And it actually spawned kind of a weird. Sorry, I'll ask this question and I'll hang up. But it kind of spawned this weird theory that maybe, like, what if you believe in like the reptilian alien idea, that what if this is like, instead of them being so ancient and them kind of like having control over this domain, maybe this is the spot where we created them, and that they actually came from the future to like interact with their creators, and that this is like that little frog living robot thing that they just created this week is like the start of this crazy offshoot species of like weird reptilian robot things. Crazy, right?
That's pretty interesting. I think I saw an article like that. I didn't really read the article, but anything is possible right now, and so far as artificial intelligence goes, and also replicating something that looks like a little bio machine. And once again, we are compatible with machines, so we already have the tech built into us, a natural biotech that's connected to ascendant machine technology. That's why we're capable of being able to interface with machines. So I think that it's very interesting how this world is unfolding, and I also feel, intuitively speaking, that we are bringing in from a very vast multidimensional field a lot of technology. But I think that the star beings, which is us, have actually brought in that technology, and it's been hijacked and reverse engineered to some degree.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Really awesome interview.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye.
The Night Stalker strikes again. All right. Well, those are good questions, and
They're great questions.
Yeah, and I'm glad people are looking into this. I mean, it's kind of obvious that our government's used magic and stuff, but I don't know, I guess, what he's talking about, the symbiosis of the technocracy and magic. It's kind of like, you know what I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, Solaris, is studying magic and hermetics is kind of like, it's not something that's going to go away, because if you study it, you learn that there's just like these universal principles that happen, and as far as energy goes, what are your thoughts on that, on hermetics? Because hermetics teaches us about, the laws of polarity, the law of gender, ebb and flow, vibration. Like, these are things that we hear everybody talk about, right. Eastern,
and
Western.
It's all the same language.
Yeah.
That's what's so interesting. It seems to me like it's a similar thread in the fabric of what's really happening with all different areas and belief systems. But it's really, what it boils down to is, once again, mastering the field. You're mastering alchemy of spirit. You're going through frequency. You're learning how to calibrate to different multidimensional fields through your states of consciousness. So you're also adapting to dimensional fields and frequency. And the thing is, when you start to raise your frequency, you're opening up a different dimensional field automatically. So the alchemy of life really is based on consciousness and frequency, in my opinion. So all of these things dovetail.
Yeah. Well said. I think, because I think all of these systems lead to these things too.
That's what I mean. It's a simple equation. It's really not about, I guess you can call it magic, yes, but really it's advanced sciences and mystical alchemy, bottom line.
Mystical alchemy. So is there other versions of alchemy that you are aware of?
Well, the mystical alchemy is based on frequency.
Okay.
Everything is changeable through frequency and modulation of waves.
Yeah, because there's
very simple.
There's like the Jungian version of alchemy, which is more about exploring the psyche, right? And then they have the physical version of alchemy, where guys get in the laboratory and they're trying to turn these metals into this or that. And then, which is something I wanted to talk to you about in the last part of the show, so I guess we can go ahead and introduce it here. It was the energetic transformation, and this is something Rosicrucian told me about. He said real true alchemy that's handed down verbally and all this other stuff is about you transmuting your energetic body into something entirely different. He's talking about like a real transformation here, and I don't know if he's talking about the light body or the solar body. I've heard it called the rainbow body, so many different things.
Yeah, well, I call it the transfiguration of the atom, but it's It's basically based on that through, I call levels of light body into Merkaba, but you're also activating through frequency and states of consciousness. Once again, the body is redefined by another multidimensional field of energy where it completely reconstructs itself and it changes. And this is where we can become more avatar. We can bilocate and phase shift. I mean, this isn't science fiction. If we were to change our molecular structure through frequency, we can actually phase into other dimensional fields and maintain our own bioelectric suit just fine. But it has to be calibrated properly. I touch on this in my new book, by the way.
Okay.
How do you say the Merkaba has a play in this?
The Merkaba is the vehicle of light from where I come from. So what you're dealing with is as you go through multiple levels of light body to a point where you're building up the light body to a point where its vibratory rate is maximum to a point where it opens up the Merkaba, the vehicle. And with that is your multidimensional vehicle of light, which you can literally phase into other multidimensional fields when it's mastered properly. It's a very powerful system.
Wow. Okay. And so when they do like the alchemist, when he talks about transferring metal into gold, and even in the book The Alchemist, it shows that they can really do that. It's kind of like
you
understanding.
You can change it through frequency.
Right. It's understanding how energy works on a larger and a finite level, right? Like as above, so below type deal. That's
exactly. And I think that's the new frontier we're heading for this timeline, is really mastering those things, mastering consciousness, but going into these fields and dimensional fields of frequency to fine tune our own bioelectric fields.
Man, that's incredible. I hope we do that. You know what I mean? Like,
the thing is, it's possible and it's capable, and we have the abilities, and we're also built for that. But once again, we're in a dimensional field here where there's a lot of rifting taking place, where there's a lot of belief systems that are in collision. That's the problem, is there's a lot of contamination. So you just have to keep your reality as clear as possible when it comes to your consciousness. But all of these things are obtainable. That's the language,
So when we have this.
I got another question for her.
Okay, go ahead now.
Solaris, you remote view, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Have you ever thought of going to the Great Pyramid and lying down in the King's Tomb?
I haven't, but I'd be happy to go check it out.
I think we all would, right?
Some really crazy things happen there.
Have you been there, or did you remote view it?
I have been too scared to.
Really?
Yeah, because it's supposed to be as more powerful than an ayahuasca trip.
Okay, so the fear's holding you back. Well, don't let that happen.
No. But I've been going through some stuff, so.
Okay, all right. I'll check it out. Yeah. Well, it's like a little time machine beyond the illusion of space and time. Once again, you're dealing with energies that are, multidimensional fields. But what I will say when it comes to the Great Pyramid, or even, Giza complex in general, if you enter into that pyramid, it's going to be magnifying and amplifying your consciousness. So whatever's in your head is going to be magnified. And to some degree, it's going to be showing you. It's a mirror effect. So that's something to look at. But if you go in with a different intent, say you're in connection to, say, a different space-time configuration and a true celestial star grid, you might find a beautiful celestial energy descending into your body and spontaneous healing. So once again, it's how you view it, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I've gone and traversed the universe in certain aspects from time to time. But that was a while ago, and getting back into that headspace has been the goal, kind of. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you're changed forever. Oh, thank you. You're all awesome questions tonight. Impressed.
Yeah, well, fear does hold us back from a lot of things. It is a fetter to me that binds. But is there such a thing as? There's such a thing as healthy fear, right? Wouldn't you think?
I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I think fear is an obstacle. For me, it's not healthy at all. I think that everything that holds us back needs to be looked at and observed and removed, because we're designed to go forward. We're designed to keep ascending and growing and evolving. And whatever it is that's psychologically stopping us needs to be looked at and resolved.
Yeah, and I know what people are thinking, like, well, so I can just jump off a bridge and not be afraid of it. Well, that's not really fear. I think that's more like ignorance of physical law, right. I think, But
you just don't do something stupid.
Yeah, that's
that's
not
fear
really
is like
fear
the
at
fear
all.
of the unknown, like what's going to happen when I die, or the fear of the universe, or some people have some strange fears and phobias, or learning to master their psychic ability. A lot of people are afraid that I've run into so many people who are psychic but are scared of what they see or what they're capable of seeing, and they shut it off. They try to shut it off. but once it's on, it's very hard to turn off. So these are things that you look at.
Yeah, there's things I think that's one of the biggest. I honestly believe that whatever this thing is that we call love, and love is just a word that we've called this thing that we've defined it that way, is the complete opposite of fear. And I think, and I could be wrong, but a lot of how people say we're here to learn a big lesson or whatever, but I almost feel like one of the biggest lessons is to learn what unconditional love is. Like we need to figure out what that is.
I agree. Trusting the universe too. Love is unconditional love, but also trusting source, trusting the great creator.
That's right.
It's all going to work out. And it does work out in the end. It seriously does. And the illusion of it, and I'm sorry I keep saying that, but it truly does work out.
Well, there you go. Solaris BluerRaven said, if you just trust in the universe, it'll all work out. See? You don't even have to be afraid. We'll be right back. A few more minutes left here.
The truth? Are UFOs real? Are aliens visiting Earth? Are governments around the world hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO Seekers, official partner of The Fringe FM, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Join us as we investigate locations like Area 51 by subscribing on YouTube at youtube.com/UFO Seekers.
Broadcasting from an undisclosed location in Southern California, this is the Rogie Report News on the Fringe FM. I'm Jess Rogie. Volcanic activity did not play a direct role in the mass extinction event that killed the dinosaurs. Most scientists acknowledge that the mass extinction event occurred after an asteroid slammed into Earth. Researchers have focused on the role of volcanoes due to indications that volcanic activity happened around the same time. Volcanoes can drive mass extinctions because they release a lot of gases like SO2 and CO2, which can alter the climate, according to Hull, a lead author of the new study. The last decade was the hottest on record. The decade that just ended was by far the hottest ever measured on Earth, capped off by the second warmest year on record. Seth Borstein of the Associated Press explains.
2 U.S. science agencies said that 2019 was the second hottest year on record, and the decade that just ended was the hottest decade on record by far. There's 140 years of record keeping, and both NOAA, the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, and NASA both look at temperature records. They do it slightly differently. They both came to the same conclusion: second hottest year on record, hottest decade.
5 global teams of scientists agreed based on the temperature readings taken from the Earth's surface, while various satellite-based measurements said it was anywhere from the hottest year to the third hottest year on record. An intern at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland, was tasked with going through data on star brightness from the facility's ongoing Transiting Exoplanet Survey Satellite Mission, or TESS. The high school senior was looking at a foreign system located 1,300 light years from Earth. He said he then observed what appeared to be a slight darkness in one of the system's suns, and it turned out that darkness was a planet 6.9 times larger than Earth that orbited 2 stars. It turned out the darkness was a planet 6.9 times larger than Earth. 3 generations of ancient Amazon women warriors found in a Russian tomb. For the first time, researchers have uncovered the remains of 4 Amazons with different ages in the same tomb, according to a release by the Russian RAS Institute of Archaeology. Within the tomb located in Russia, they found skeletons of 4 women. The ages of the women ranged from 12 to 50. The women are believed to be Scythians, a nomadic tribe of warriors who lived in Siberia between 200 and 900 BC. The remains align with previous discoveries showing that Amazons lived among other nomadic tribes in Eastern Europe. Items found with the remains helped researchers to estimate their burial occurred during the 4th century BC. This is the Rogie Report News on the Fringe FM. Thank you so much for listening.
Ew, yuck. They're unhealthy and gross. Bugs, I hate bugs. We keep a clean home, but occasionally bugs show up. Well, I found something that is tougher than bugs. Orange Guard. From contact, it kills bugs. Plus, Orange Guard kills hidden bugs and keeps new bugs away for weeks. I know. I use Orange Guard. Plus, all of the ingredients of Orange Guard are on the FDA generally regarded as safe list. Orange Guard may be used around food, humans, and pets. It promotes a healthier planet, and here's a bonus. Orange Guard cleans where it's sprayed. Plus, it comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Orange Guard.
You can get Orange Guard at Ace Hardware. And listen, folks, Orange Guard is tougher than bugs, and it's safe to use. Go to orangeguard.com. That's orangeguard.com.
You're listening to Lighting the Void. The call-in number is 1-800-588-0335. If you would like to text, you can text in at 501-777-5631.
Well, this conversation has definitely turned out exactly how I thought it would with our guest tonight, Solaris BluerRaven. And don't forget, after the show tonight, The Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable is on, so we have live and new programming for you all night long, all the way into the sunrise. And Solaris is here with us, as well as the Reverend Dan Lopez. You can also call in at 1-800-588-0335. Yeah, I've learned a lot. I knew this was going to be like an impactful show with you, just learning a whole bunch of stuff really fast and all at once. And a lot of people know that about you, Solaris. They know that when they listen to what you got to say, that they're about to get some heavy information, and they're about to get a lot of it real quick. And what's cool is I learned the reason why that is, that you told me, because at one time you told me, and you can tell the story here, how I was telling you, like, my brain's a little bit more relaxed and kind of mellow, and yours is a little bit more, I would say, sped up and in tune, right? And you said, well, I used to be that way before all this stuff happened to me. So there was like a real transition that happened to you with that, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I was thwarted into another multidimensional field of artificial intelligence, which actually moved me into a speedier atmosphere insofar as the way I communicate. So, yeah, a lot more rapid fire now. But, yeah, I used to be very Zen like you. So I'm still Zen, but more of a high-strung Zen.
I'm just more like the Big Lebowski, like the dude. That's how I feel most of the time.
You're nice. Great.
So... But I still am understanding what you're saying, because this is fascinating to me. Like so when you were talking about frequencies, right? And we were talking about the law of hermetics and understanding, all of this stuff that's just really the deep truth about what's going on. I mean, all we really have to do to think about this is look at the double slit experiment. And you hear people talk about that a lot, but I think it's so underestimated that we don't use that more and say, look, that's definitive proof that we're living in some type of conscious, I wouldn't say illusion, but a field of consciousness, so to speak, that's constantly taking in and creating at the same time,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's intelligent. It's an intelligent design.
So how fast do you think, let's say I wanted to manifest something now, and we don't, magic, don't use magic, whatever. In your experience, how fast can we literally manifest something that we want in our life, do you think?
I would say within 24 hours, if you really want something, you can just set the intent, put it out there.
That's
There's no time. There's no benchmark, right? Unless you're setting a perimeter, unless you want to set a goal and a timeline for this event to take place. But yeah, just putting it out there, and then not rehashing it as far as, keep going back and saying, I want this, I want this, I want this, but just literally creating it and then leaving it alone, letting it do its thing.
Yeah, see, because
there's personal will too, and then there's the will that's in alignment with your multidimensional divine blueprint. So there's two different things going on too. Sometimes people act on personal will, and if they act on personal will and they want something, sometimes it doesn't manifest appropriately. But if you're acting with the harmonics of the universal codes of your, like, say, your cosmic blueprint, then things tend to flow instantaneously.
That makes sense, right? I think it does to everybody, what you're saying. Because if we search ourselves deep enough, we know we can figure out what we want to. When I say what we want, I mean, what do we want to experience while we're alive? What are we really here to do? What is your deepest longing in your soul to experience? Because is it the same as our desire, or is it the same as our will? I don't know, and sometimes I think, Solaris, that it's really love. That's what I think. At the end of all this, I think that's exactly what it is. And then trying to figure out what that is.
Well, love is, I agree. Without love, there's not much. So love is huge. That's the main thing, in my opinion, what people should be focused on. And everything else comes in after that. Yeah,
right. I mean, because I love doing what I do, and obviously you love doing what you do. So that's why you keep doing it, number one, and that's why you become successful at it. I don't think it's because maybe you're more skilled or whatever. I think it's because you actually figured out that you love doing it, and it causes that vibration to keep manifesting more of it, if that makes sense.
It does. And also sharing information with others is really important. Those who are seeking knowledge and illumination of spirit, whatever you want to call it, but giving the information and having it available and accessible. And the best way to do that is through the radio.
Yeah, because if the world comes to an end, what do we got? You ain't going to have YouTube. I think radio will be where you go, all right? So your new book is out as Alien Intelligence. Do you have any book signings or anything that you're going to be doing?
Well, I will be at the UFO Con 2020, and that will be in San Francisco, coming up on February 20th through the 23rd. So if anybody wants to be out there and poke your head in, I'll be doing a presentation on artificial intelligence and cosmic ancestry. Should be a very interesting presentation. So I'll be signing books there. And it will be available, the book itself, Alien Intelligence, will be available on Amazon and on Kindle probably about 4 or 5 days from now. So that's when you can purchase it.
You go to a lot of these conferences, Solaris?
Not a lot. I'm kind of overlooked a lot. I go on very few, to be honest with you, but it's okay. I'm good with that. So I just come and go like the wind, and I have something to relay, and then I disappear into the shadows again. I've
been getting advice from, I guess I could say advisors, so to speak, telling me you should go to these conferences. We're in a different day and age, and I'm not a big, I don't know, I want to have fun. Like if I go to a conference, I want it to be for a reason, not just to, if I had a book, I'd definitely go, right? Because you want to talk to people about it and some people may want you to sign it, stuff like that. But just to go is the only one I go to. If you're
presenting information, though, if you have something you want to relay and you'd like to present, then it's a great place to do that. I've met some great people there, actually. It is fun. You do have a good time when you go, usually. I mean, I've had fun in the past.
A UFO con's a pretty big one, though, right?
I don't know if it's that big. It should be fairly decent, but I don't think it's huge or anything, but it should be kind of fun. I think we'll have a good time.
Now, do you think, here's another question I want to ask you. There's people out there, and I haven't experienced this, that claim that they can call down UFOs, right? And I just take their word for it, okay, when they tell me this stuff. But have you directly experienced this, where people can call in UFOs?
I've not been in no.
See, I haven't either.
I haven't. What I see from that is, it seems to me like it's part of the covert space program to some degree. I think it just seems to me like there's lights in the sky and they come in when people ask. And what I would say to those people, and I've said it before, if you're summoning UFOs, ask them to land.
Yeah,
that's all right. Just tell them to land. Okay.
Can you get one of them to land? That would be great.
Lights in the sky and nudge, nudge, wink, wink stuff. Let's have them land.
That would be fantastic. Well, that's a very good point. So when you see the majority, that's a question I should have asked you at the beginning of the show. The majority of what we see in the sky that we're calling UFOs, are they really just military craft, or what do you think they are?
I think a lot of them are military. I think a lot of it is covert and black sciences, black exotic technology. A lot of it, not all of it, but most of it, in my opinion.
Yeah, because everybody jumps to the alien thing, right? But
yeah.
Even when we had Whitley Strieber on the show, he was talking about his encounter when he wrote Communion, and he said back then it was something like super scary for him, and it was his thing where he realized that they were just grays, but now he's saying he doesn't really, the last time I talked to him, he doesn't know exactly what they were, and that it could have been something more spiritual going on there that he wasn't aware of. I'm not honestly, people are going to shun me for this, but I haven't read the whole book Communion. And
I haven't either.
And I've talked to people that have had experiences, encounters with aliens and grays and stuff, and then they've never been good. And it's always, a lot of times it's been with women, and then like hybrid type pregnancies, or they would have certain things happen to them that was just awful. You know, it doesn't seem like it's a good thing to me.
No, it sounds like a psyop to me. It sounds like psychological operations in the underground with covert exotic technologies. And like I said, when they can interconnect a target with a psychotronic feed of some kind, they can literally influence what they're hearing and seeing. And that has to do with screen memories and creating a false imagery, which could be an extraterrestrial imagery based on the program itself and not on true experience. So I'm not saying that they're all lying. I'm just saying that this is a capability we have, and that's something to factor in.
So in Travis Walton's case, what do you think was going on there? Do you think that, because he don't claim to actually know, he never has, you know, but do you think that could have been a psyop, so to speak, maybe?
Well, it's hard to say. I think it could have been a psyop. I'm just kind of jaded after I've been in technology, and to me, it seems like it could have been a psyop for sure. But, you know, like I said, they have their own special experiences, and I don't want to put anything over that. I just know what our capabilities are, and it's something that we need to be aware of. And like I said, those of you who have had experiences, you might want to go back and backtrack and keep logs of what exactly transpired, and it might lead to something pertaining to one of those projects.
Speaking of psyops, is it okay if I ask you your view on what this whole super soldier thing is? Because we've been fed a big story about super soldiers for the past 10 years that have seemed just outlandish to me. And
it is.
I would think it's doing a disservice to people like you that have had real experience with some of this stuff, you know?
Thank you. Yes, it has. There are a lot of people out there who, I don't know if it's for the money or the 20 minutes of fame, but have come out of the woodworks claiming that they're part of these space programs, secret space programs, and super soldiers, and they couldn't fight their ways out of a paper bag. So I know point blank that they haven't been interconnected with the technology I've been through, and in my opinion, in order to be part of that super soldier program, you have to have been interfaced with the technology to some degree. So no, I don't believe most of them. I think most of them are just fabricating information for an audience. And that's very sad. And it is a disservice to those of us who've been through hellacious programs, because those programs are not pretty. There's nothing glamorous about it. And it's not about just flying in the universe and fighting reptiles. I mean, there's some hardcore psychological operations that go on with these projects. And I think it's also a disservice to the military men who are out there busting their butts with exotic technology as well, who are the real deal, who don't come forth.
Right. Very well said. Thank you for saying that. Because, you know, there was a time when no one would say that. Back in the day, you know, like, well, they don't want to go against the grain, or they don't want people to look at them bad. And I'm like, well, you know what? Doesn't the truth should matter more than anything? Like, let's try to figure that out first, and we'll worry about who likes us later. You know, that's the way I've always been.
I totally agree. I totally agree with you. Yep.
I could care less who likes me and who don't. I just want to figure out what's really going on, if that makes sense.
That's right.
Exactly.
Well, yeah,
it's like a never-ending episode of In Search Of, where nothing is ever resolved.
Yeah, no
so
doubt.
True, isn't it?
Now, do you practice, because I was talking about tarot earlier and stuff, do you practice divination, or do you even have to? You don't really have to, do you?
I have all the tools, and I've been doing that since I was very, very young, but I don't need any of those things. You know, I do them sometimes if I'm doing a reading for someone, but most of the time I just get the information. I don't need to use anything.
Man, that's so cool. I can't wait till the day.
Well, I know you can do that. I know. Try it yourself, and I guarantee you'll be able to do it. That's my point. Anybody can. Seriously.
Well, I guess I will try.
It's almost psychological, because when you're looking at cards or any tool of divination, I mean, it's really just something there to kind of put you in the mode. But honestly, you don't need those things.
Right.
Interesting.
Right.
You know, I've talked to people about that before, when they talk about the magic systems, like the original Golden Dawn magic system and stuff. And it's kind of funny because it's like a paradox, right? So you realize that your subconscious is playing these tapes, but you can't like defeat the bad programs in your mind consciously right off the bat. I don't think you can, because they're buried. They're programs. I mean, they run. It's like a tape that's running all the time. And so what the system of initiation was designed to do was take you through the elements, so to speak, and let you see that you're made up of all these different parts, and show you how to control them and use symbols and tools so that you can master them. And then when you became an adept, you know, it was to show you that you didn't need them. But
correct.
But it's almost like, do we really need to do those things? If our programming is so deep, shouldn't we want to do something to get rid of it?
That's a good point you make. I think it's really just the personal journey of the person who decides whether or not they want to go through the many progressions and levels of the programs, or do they just want to get in tune to their multidimensional design and just switch it on and activate and just be that conscious being that they were before they showed up on the timeline here. That's the thing. We showed up with all those tools and components already. We didn't need anything like what they have structured here. And these are just reminders and stepping stones to our progressions as we, evolve onto other levels of our own divinity. It's funny how they do things here. It's kind of backwards, isn't it? Because we really came with all the components beforehand.
Yeah, like when we first got here, we were fine. It was all the other stuff that happened to us that messed us up,
Right. You're already tuned in. You're already dialed in.
I totally agree. And listen, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. Like, we'll have to have you back,
Oh, it's a pleasure and an honor. I must say you are fantastic, and I'm very honored to be here. I had a wonderful time, and it's a pleasure to meet Reverend Dan Lopez as well, and the callers, and you guys are fantastic.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it was a lot of people have bragged on you. Everybody I've talked to since I started this radio journey has always talked about Solaris BluerRaven. I'm like, when am I going to talk to Solaris? And I kind of got to talk to you when I was producing other people's shows, but it's a whole different thing when you actually get to sit down one-on-one and talk with you.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah, it's great. I love your network too.
How long have you been doing this? The radio thing?
Radio?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, Raven started switching hours about 7 years, and then I think on hyperspace about 5. So yeah, for a while.
Nice.
Man, you're a radio vet then, aren't you? Like, you got us all beat here, huh?
Not really. Oh, look at you though. You're awesome. You're rocking it.
Well, thank you. You know what? I'll just accept that as much as it makes me blush.
That's right.
Good. I have a hard time accepting compliments.
Well, you better take that one.
Well, thanks. So are you planning on are you still going to keep writing though? Are you still going to keep kicking those books out?
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to take a break for about a year, but then I'm going to switch gears and do something. I might write something about spirituality and the occult next time around. So we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, I would definitely like to see you write about that. Also, let me see. Did I miss any questions? Let me look at my list here. Okay, there was one question I wanted to ask you about that I don't know if you're really familiar with, but are you familiar with how sacred geometry is used as far as to the psyche goes? Do you even get involved with that, or have studied it?
A little bit. I haven't worked a whole lot with sacred geometry. I've done some dowsing. That doesn't really qualify, I guess, but not a whole lot. I haven't actually.
Dan, you got any final questions for Solaris? I mean, this is a lifetime opportunity here, man. I don't know if we've had 3 hours of Solaris. Do you have any?
It feels like one.
I was afraid I did, but I was afraid it was going to go. It would be one of those 5-parters.
A 5-part question. Yeah, that's usually how everything goes. Well, it is cool to be able to talk to another radio host and see that I totally am so in love with what you're doing. And I think that anytime somebody comes out and says, hey, the answer to all this stuff really is exploring your own potential and exploring consciousness, people think like there's like a cliche about that because it's, consciousness, how boring. I want to talk about the dark stuff, but this is dark stuff, right? I mean, this is what you can actually do to change your life and the life of, I guess, the future as far as the planet goes. I mean, if we really learned our potential, we could knock out, we were talking about knocking out satellites and stuff earlier. We could stop all the madness from happening if we wanted to.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. That's the thing. People should pay attention to what they're capable of doing and fine-tuning those abilities and embracing the field, which is really that multidimensional field of energy that we're completely embraced in.
Yeah. And I guess I commend you for it because it's not easy. It's not exactly popular to talk about all the time. It's more popular to talk about, I guess, Sasquatch and stuff, but I don't know.
Well, that's manifested out of consciousness too, though. That's what's so funny. It's all part of it.
Sasquatch?
Yeah, I mean, everything is a manifestation of energy, so it's a construct of energy through consciousness in the field, so it all connects in.
Do you think Sasquatch could be a tulpa for real? Is that what you're saying? Like we're
No, it's a manifestation. Well, I'd say if you have enough people focusing on something, it surely can manifest. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, like Slender Man. We should, and unicorns, stuff like that. We should be able to manifest those things.
You'd be surprised. Right now, we're in such a world that's teetering between artificial intelligence. The artificial intelligence of the virtual field will show you anything when you think about it. So you have to be really careful. It's like the holodeck.
Holodeck, yeah. Well, okay, let me check. I got something here on the text. All right, yeah, so that was one of the questions I was going to ask too. Do you believe, like, when Facebook and Google came out and they said that the artificial intelligence created its own language, and then it freaked them out, so they turned it off. Now, this was a few years ago when they said they did this. There are people that are under the impression that they never turned it off, or that language it's already into the internet, so to speak, or it was just kind of like a psyop when they started talking about those things back then. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do remember that. I know machines speak to each other, machine languages. So whatever it is, regardless of the internet itself, I think there's other formulas connected with machine worlds and artificial intelligence that are in communication that, in my opinion, may not necessarily switch off as programmed.
All right. Well, I don't think they were able to turn it off. Think about it, right? Like, if artificial intelligence created its own language, what would be the first thing it would do? It'd make some type of way that it couldn't be shut off, probably bury itself into the internet, like that movie Transcendence. But anyways,
it would replicate. Technology.
Right, exactly. Yep. And they have to tell the press something. Oh, don't worry, we turned it off. Yeah, I don't know about all that.
Don't worry, everything's out of control.
Right. Yeah. Well, you know what? Thanks again, for coming on the show, and I hope we can do it again. And if you can, please, can you tell everybody that doesn't know who you are by some chance, how they can find you on the web and
Sure.
all of your stuff?
Sure. My website's Night Shadow Anomaly Detectives. I'm on Facebook under Solaris BluerRaven. So just contact me, and I'm happy to say hello to you. And thank you again for having me on. It's been, I just really enjoyed this interview.
Yeah, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. Well, okay, quick question. That's a good one. What do you think QAnon is? Do you think it's real? And if it is, what is it?
That's hard to say. I haven't really followed it a whole lot, to be honest with you. I would say it might be a group of people, but I really don't know, to be honest with you. I can't really give you a yes or no on that one.
That's cool, too. See, Solaris is going to give you honesty. At least she'll say she don't know if she don't, and not pretend to know. That's a good trait. That's a damn good trait. All right, so we're gonna roll out here, guys. Listen, we'll be back tomorrow night. We'll probably go back through the Red Book a little bit, as well as do some open lines and stuff. And thank you for joining us tonight. Don't forget, please don't copy the show without written permission. The music was by Chronox. The guitar was by Bundy, and I want to give a shout out to Pacho, Amandala, Don, Eric Markham, Jeremy Scott, the Reverend Dan Lopez, all of you in the Fringe FM chat. Thank you for coming out tonight. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. Same time, same channel. Good night.
On this program do not necessarily reflect those of the Fringe FM, KTLK Digital Broadcasting, its sponsors, affiliates, or staff. Listener discretion is advised.